Okay. Yeah.
Is anyone here from Greg? You missed that. Meeting order, and let's start with roll call.
Jason Thielen present.
Greg Gordon present.
Kelly Law present.
Jessica Smuin present.
Lon Lot present.
Okay. And we'll start with a prayer by Greg Gordon.
Our dear Father in heaven, we are grateful to meet this evening and discuss the betterment of our city and those who live or work here. We thank thee for all of our many blessings, for the snow that we've received and for the opportunity to serve. We're grateful for all who serve here. We ask a blessing on all of our servicemen and women who help to preserve our freedoms. And we pray for thy spirit to be with us, to guide us and assist us in all that we do. We thank thee for so much and do so in the sacred name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and Jessica, would you lead us in the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, with that, we will move on to item number 2, which is the consent calendar. Shane, did you have anything you wanted to go over, or?
The only thing that probably needs some explanation. Item E is the first invoice from Central Utah Water Conservancy District for CUP water. So they bill twice. Once is for the water itself, and that's what this bill is. And then after the irrigation season, so later in the fall, they'll bill us for the O&M charges. And I think I put that sheet that has a list of those in the packet. I remember right.
I think so.
You did.
Yeah, so we'll have to, we haven't had that in our budget. In the budget amendment that's on the agenda tonight, I added in for this first payment, an adjustment in the budget for that. So that's something that we'll see every year now for a while.
Okay, so does anybody have any questions on the consent calendar?
No, I made changes to the minutes in the reports at the end, modified corrections to some names that were made in my comments.
Okay.
I submitted a small correction. Yeah.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with the changes that were made by Lon and Craig.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Lon and a second by Kelly to approve the items on the consent calendar. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are moving on to item 3, which is public comment. This is a time for anybody who is not on, or any subject that is not on the agenda, to be able to, for the public to come and comment on anything. And we ask that you keep your comment to 2 minutes. To 2 minutes.
Since there's not many here, we can probably give them 3.
Okay, so if we don't have anybody, public comments, we'll go on to, do we have any reports and presentations, Shane? Or
No.
should we move on? Okay, so move on to action item number 5, which is discussion items. The first one is a public hearing for a resolution regarding the impact fees, facilities plan, and the analysis for culinary water.
So what might make sense here, John Sheets from Horrocks Engineers is here. He's prepared these 2 studies. Maybe we could just have a kind of the presentation and then hold a public hearing, and then the council, if they're ready, can take action. These studies, we've been working on them for a while. There's a few reasons why it's taken a little bit longer. One of which is the CUP project, getting that into the plan and actual costs and some different things. But we're glad we're to this point that we can have these plans presented to the city council. So we'll turn the time over to John.
All right. Just getting set up here. Mayor, council, thank you for the opportunity to come and present. My name is John Sheets with Horrocks Engineers. I've worked with Shane for over 20 years on water system and sewer system analysis in Alpine. And I really appreciated that opportunity, and I'm glad to be here tonight. If this is something that I get excited about, and I could spend a lot of time diving deep into details, but I'll spare you that this evening. I'm going to do a really quick overview, but by all means, if you've got questions about details or things, let me know. I'd love to answer those, but I'm gonna try and be really quick tonight. What I want to cover is 2 different items. It's the culinary water system and the pressurized irrigation system. Those are the first 2 items on your agenda. And each of those systems in the report I prepared has a master plan, an impact fee facility plan, and an impact fee analysis. They're set up that way because of state statute. State statute actually tells you have to have an impact fee facility plan and an impact fee analysis, and they're separate documents. And so that's why they're set up that way in the document. What I try to do when I look at a system and a master plan is I analyze the system that exists right now, the demands that are on that system, and look and see what kind of level of service you're providing your citizens. And then I project future population and the demands placed on the system by that future population. I recommend improvements to fix existing deficiencies, as well as improvements to meet the needs of build out population. I put together a schedule of implementation, and I put together cost estimates, and then analyze what an impact fee would be for that particular system. For the culinary water system, I am supposed to prepare this is supposed to be a summary that is supposed to be simple for the layperson who doesn't maybe understand all the details that go into the master planning, but that they can understand what is going into this impact fee analysis. And hopefully it is. But basically, this summary tells you what kind of things can be included in an impact fee analysis, what kind of things cannot be included in an analysis, and basically the bottom line of recommending an amount for an impact fee for the culinary water system. And the amount there is just over $1,100 per equivalent residential connection. That equivalent residential connection is a average residential connection here in town, somebody who has access to the pressurized irrigation system. So they're only using water for indoor. And I'd like to note at this point that the areas of town that do not have access to pressurized irrigation obviously use culinary water for their outdoor irrigation. And through the metering system you have and the measurements that are taken, we've determined that those particular houses use about 12 times as much water as a normal regular house down here in town. And so their impact fee is going to be 12 times that amount. But that's the basic description of your culinary water system and that analysis. And I've done something similar for the secondary water system, or the pressurized irrigation system. I can bring that one over as well. Almost the exact same document, but just geared to the pressurized irrigation system. And here, the impact fee is estimated to be a little over $5,500 per equivalent residential unit. That's kind of an average over the whole city. But in the document itself, it tells you how to size an equivalent residential unit. I mean, in the 40,000 square foot zone, it's a little different than the 20,000 square foot zone. And there's a table in the document that describes that for staff when they implement it.
Hey, quick question while you're on that. So it's based on the zone that the property is in, not based on the.
It is
particular
based
lot.
on the zone basis first, but if you have an outlier in that zone, let's say in your 20,000 square foot zone, you've got somebody that wants to build a house on 1.5 acres. You've got a way to adjust it for that particular situation. Yes.
Okay.
The ERU that you're referring to
Yes.
on adjusting that
Yes.
calculation.
Absolutely.
But if it's relatively close, let's say it's a point, then it's just a standard.
Yeah. You use the standard ERU for that zone. Okay.
So I've got a question. Sorry, you said with culinary, it's about just almost $1,200 per connection, but a house that uses culinary water for their PI system also is 12 times that. Are we currently charging 12 times the hookup, or is it just a flat hookup no matter what?
It's not 12 times it right now, but it is, I think I could divide it here and tell you exactly.
So I believe there's a difference between a connection fee and an impact fee.
It's
Yeah.
five times according to
Currently 5 times.
this.
Yeah.
Your current.
Currently is 5 times. We're 1,100 now. And 6,700 for a non-PI.
So can you back up? Because I am the average person understanding this impact fee versus hookup.
Okay.
So is this a fee that's in basically my water bill? Is that what an impact fee means? Okay,
It's when you're building.
okay, so just in new construction.
New construction, a building permit, yes.
Okay,
And a hookup fee and a impact fee are two separate items.
Okay.
The hookup fee is the actual cost to supply the meter and go connect it.
Okay.
And the impact fee is the fee that you collect from people who are building to fund the necessary improvements to your system because of the demand they're placing on the bigger system. So that's what an impact fee is.
Or buying into existing
Or-
capacity.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
okay.
Maybe I can ask a follow-up to Carla's. But obviously, if the impact fee is based on a 12 times increase on the culinary for those who don't have PI, we charge more right now for month-to-month rates for those that are above and not using the PI, using culinary basically as their landscape. tool, the landscape water. How does that, do we use that 12 times at all as we calculate rates for those individuals?
Well, on the rates on culinary water, it's based on how many thousand gallons of water they use.
Right.
And so they're paying for what they use. So.
Okay, so they don't have to hook up to PI, but they're obviously using a lot. So are they, with someone who has PI
Mhm.
and someone who doesn't, are they paying the same amount per gallon of water coming through their system? Or is there a discount we're giving those that have to use culinary for their landscape purposes?
Yeah, so back when the irrigation system was put in place, there was a water rate. Those that didn't have the opportunity to have PI water were left on that rate. There was a new rate for everyone else. That's something that once we get our PI rate study complete, we want to look at this other rate. I mean, we've got some situations now where water has to be pumped multiple times to be able to serve some of the homes at higher elevations. So back way before PI, there was a rate for box elder because if you weren't in box elder, the water gravity flowed through the system unless wells were pumping. For box elder, 100% of the water has to be pumped up to the tank to serve those homes. And the same for Three Falls and some of Willow Canyon. And so that rate study would account for those differences. So it needs to be looked at. It hasn't been reviewed for quite some time. So.
I should note too that in your previous impact fee, they're paying 5 times as much. That was based on the previous analysis and measurements back at that point. These measurements that we've taken were from this summer with all your new metering system. That information, that data is very, very helpful in preparing these reports. But the actual average across all of those people in those developments that don't have the pressure irrigation water was 12 times as much.
My understanding then is the impact that is going to occur starting now going forward is based on the fact of source as well. So that if we don't have source and we have to drill another well, that impacts the system currently. And the way I read this then, that the amount to drill a new well shouldn't be placed upon those who exist right now, but should be covered over the people who need to tap into that in the future.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And there's some projects that are serving the existing population and new growth. So there's tables in there that kind of split costs depending on the improvement.
So this was a lot to digest.
Yes.
This is the biggest packet I've seen. So that many pages, yeah. But the existing ones that are still things were built based and anticipating that lot would be developed. Is this proposing that if that lot hasn't been developed, even though it was anticipated in the future, that they will now have a current impact fee?
That's correct.
That's how you've calculated this.
Yes.
Okay.
And the impact fees are looking at growth for 10 years, right?
Yes, we're limited on, you can only look at a 10-year period. The growth that happens in that 10-year period and the amount of the improvements that are associated with that amount of growth.
And so our plan would be I think we had annual kind of a minor review set up annually, and then every 5 years, do a little bit more major review of our study and see if things are in line or if there needs to be adjustments made for inflation or different circumstances or whatever.
I didn't quite understand. Maybe you can explain. The Heritage Hills well.
Yes.
Is this an existing one or is this the new and proposed one that we're talking about?
This is the proposed new one, yes. So if you would like Right now you see on your screen a figure. This is the culinary water system. I'm sorry, that says that's the build out improvements that are anticipated for the culinary water system. You can see the color coding on lines that need to be upsized or installed. And the previous page to that is the current system improvements. It shows quite a few small water lines. It shows some booster pumps and a tank and a couple PRV stations. And as Shane has noted, some of these, they are an existing deficiency that existing people will fund, but they're also going to be built such that they will serve future. And so there's a split cost there. Part of it is impact fee cost, part of it is existing costs.
As you're doing that analysis, was it just Alpine residents and property within Alpine, or did it include potential annexation areas as well?
Okay, yeah, and there's a comment, a description of that exact thing in the plan. In your current annexation declaration, I believe you say a certain elevation can be served by the existing system. Those areas that are in your annexation plan or under that elevation, they are all included in this analysis. Anything that is not in your annexation plan or higher than that elevation are not included in this.
And our development code, our subdivision ordinance says that if they're above an elevation of 5350, they have to basically build a water system that will serve, you know, whatever elevation they're going up to, because our system on its own can't do it. So,
And when they say water system, that includes all of the water lines, all of the storage facilities, the tanks, and the sources needed to supply it. Yes.
Question. So this is an excellent review and analysis, but so a couple things, right? And there's always, you know, assumptions made. One is, right, homes are probably going to have a larger footprint, maybe more drip lines or be more water wise or conserve more in the future, maybe fewer inhabitants per household on average. But one of the assumptions looks like that there is, based on growth, I think it is, right, that we'll be gaining 1,100 additional undeveloped lots. And I wonder, does that factor in here? So our future impact fees are divided effectively by that 1,100. Is that basically the calculation?
Yes.
And so, but as I look at it, and I could just be terribly off, and I, you know, maybe I haven't seen a map with the numbers on it, but I can find about maybe 300 more lots, or probably not even 500 or 1,100. Is the 1,100
Okay, that's
Yeah.
a great question. And remember, it's the ERCs, or the equivalent residential connections. And as we just talked about, there's quite a few lots in the bigger, in the areas that are not served by pressurized irrigation, where they're going to have 12 ERCs per lot. And so that's where a large portion of that total number comes from.
Oh, I
Yes.
see. So, yeah, so in other words, 10 culinary
Yes,
lots are gonna count as 110 or whatever.
yes.
Times the impact fee.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, because I didn't understand that either. I was
Yeah.
like, where is he getting 1,100?
Another question, the build out fire flow available, that there's still a few red dots on there. I assume maybe that just a handful.
I believe all of those red dots, and I probably should have not included those, but those are areas on transmission lines that are too close to a reservoir to have the pressure to supply that. I believe that there's, without going back to double check, but I believe everything else in the service area has the fire flow necessary.
Yeah, okay, so it's not a concern.
No.
So, Mayor, can I
Yes,
speak?
go ahead.
So as you stated in, or I read in a few different places, I don't know if you stated it or not, but this was important study to do in order to provide an equitable, fair, and legal defensible cost, right? There's going to be some people that really gulp hard on this one because of what they have been paying and in building here, and then what they're going to be paying. Craig, is this, I mean, are we on safe ground then with this study to?
I don't know about the dollar, but I can tell you that the methodology follows the state statute. I don't know about the 1155,
Okay,
but the methodology is accurate according to the state statute.
I just know not too many years ago, the state ran into the problem of impact fees having to refund certain amount to builders based on the fact that they were being overcharged at the time. So
I think that's one of the reasons the annual and 5-year reviews are important, to make sure that costs were in line with projects. You know, it could go either way. You can get a project
absolutely
done cheaper, it might cost more money. But funny enough on that, we've actually had the Utah Valley Home Builders Association, which are usually hammering on cities because their impact fees are too high. They're coming to us and saying,
You just turned it.
we just gotta come and make sure yours are lower than everybody else's. Something doesn't look right. They think,
It's too low.
which is completely opposite of what they normally do.
okay, I just had to,
And I've actually had a developer,
We haven't done any adjustments
Same
for a
thing.
while.
oh, I know, I agree, I have,
It's been 15
Yeah.
years, has it? About,
yeah, it's been a while.
So
yeah, and that was a concern when I saw the disparity in those numbers is, have I as a citizen for all these years been subsidizing something else then? You know, should we have looked at this previously and made some adjustments earlier? Anyway,
I would argue too, though, that right now a big component of that is the current cost of construction.
yeah, no, I agree.
Inflation has been terrible. We all feel it. So.
I agree. So again, though, I'm just saying, it's just a big spread on these, not necessarily the culinary and those who have secondary connections, but the culinary and those who don't. And then when we move into the PI, across the board, it's
I mean, I think the other component of it is people are using the amount of water that they think they should be able to, and it's higher than we anticipated. And to be able to serve that kind of water, we need this kind of improvements.
Yes.
So it's kind of, you know, that's how it works. Either somehow you force them to use less water to put in less improvements, or you provide the infrastructure to use the water they think they should be able to.
And it's nice with these meters now that we know,
Exactly.
we just know what we're doing.
And both
We know what every gallon that's moving out.
on the culinary and PI side. I mean, on culinary, we have meters, but we were only reading twice a year. And so there was a lot of interpolation necessary to see where that water use, you know, what the curve was throughout the year. And now John's had information he's never had available.
It's been fantastic. And even on the pressure irrigation system, we don't know what people are using in different areas in the city. We try and estimate by how much ground there is there to irrigate. But that's been an estimation. And now we can nail down exactly from each lot, how much water they're using, and plug it into the models. And that's helped us to determine different improvements than we would have determined before with the assumptions.
This is just more of a curiosity question, but the monies we get for usage for water, is a portion of that for upgrading our systems?
Yeah, so that's how when we redo our water user fees, we'll take into account all the projects that are listed that are existing deficiencies. Those get paid for with user fees. The new growth improvements get paid for with impact fees.
So in here, it states that if we were to replace the entire system over 80 years, it would cost 1.5 million a year, roughly, right? And we're depreciating 350 a year. So is our assumption at present that we won't have to replace the whole system in 80 years?
But that's a good point. I put that replacement value in these plans for you to know and see what the actual cost is of your system. And then it's up to you if you wanna, if you feel like you need to fund it fully or put it off to the future. I can't tell you what to do there. For your pressure irrigation system, it's a relatively new system. So do you need to collect that full amount now? Maybe not. In the culinary system, you're starting to get areas that are deteriorating, met their useful life, and they need to start being replaced. And so the culinary water system, you need to think about how am I going to replace it? And this just gives you a benchmark of what is needed if it's done over 80 years.
And part of being able to charge an impact fee and having this minimum level of service, we're expected to bring the rest of the existing system to that minimum level of service. So for the last 10 years, probably, we've realized we have an aging system, and we've done a water project every year, replacing some water line to the tune of 250 to, in more recent years, probably 400,000 plus a year. So that it's not all hitting at once.
So then going with what Jason asked, Dan, about the rate that we're paying. We're talking sort of two different things here. We're talking impact fees, which is now moving forward, which doesn't really impact any existing users. Right? But what Jason asked then is really, and with Greg's question about redoing the system, we need our next step, not tonight, but our next step then is rate increases based on the rate study if we need to improve our system, right? Am I understanding
to
that?
do an effective rate study, they need a good capital facilities plan, and that's we have that now that we can hand them with updated costs and everything, and all of that will be taken into account.
But we're not talking about rates on use here
Not
tonight.
today, no.
It's just simply the impact fee.
That's correct.
Okay.
And identifying existing deficiencies in the system that we need to be working towards correcting.
Are the boosters in here, is that a pressure thing for the pressurizing? The cost attached to the Healy booster and the Alpine Boulevard booster station. What exactly, I'm curious.
Okay, yes, and so your pressure irrigation system, those boosters, one of the concerns that you have with your system right now is you've got a lot of water sources that are down in the lower end of town and no way to get that water into the upper reaches of town. And especially when you have a dry year and you don't have water coming from Dry Creek, which is up in the upper reaches, if you don't have enough water up there, you need to be able to move water from down lower into the upper reaches. And that's the purpose of those. If you had good water out of Dry Creek all the time, then those would not be necessary. But as we've found out many times over the past 10 years that it is necessary. That's what those are for.
Does the booster get it to these locations, or does the booster push it from these locations to a higher elevation?
The Healy booster will take it from the low zone and put it in the mid zone.
Okay.
The Alpine Boulevard booster will take it from the low zone reservoir right there, and it can boost it. The plan is to boost it both into the mid zone and to the upper zone, both. Either one, wherever it's needed.
But Jason, your question was pressure. It just moves the water up there.
That's,
But
So
it
you know
can
exactly
increase
what I'm
pressure, because if there's a lot of demand and you're not able to feed
Yeah.
that zone, the pressure does drop.
Yes.
It will be insignificant though, from what you're trying to
understand.
answer.
Yeah, TMI, I struggled taking a shower this morning. So, yeah.
That is TMI. Thank you. though.
Really? There's some water.
So, I mean, with the pressure irrigation system, one thing that's way different with it than the PI is there's so many different things that can happen on any given year. You could have a high runoff year and be great and never pump a well until July. We've had years, not for quite a while, that we didn't pump a well because there's a lot of snowpack. It was a cool spring that it just came down nice and easy and just the way you wanted, and not get 100 degrees in May and all come down at once. And so we have to have all these different options in the toolbox of how we can get water to all the different residents in the city.
Yes.
The one thing I wish we had a little more information, and it's not this meeting right here, is my initial question related to annexation on how these funds are being collected right now for future annexation purposes and how that affects decisions related to annexation and the like. We're obviously creating boosters that can push it up, I'm guessing, to that point, potentially. And finding additional sources in a Healy well, not Healy, but Heritage Hills well. How that plays into future decision is something I would like to understand better, but probably not today.
I think the only real annexation that we're talking about in this particular plan is over just south of Lambert Park. There's an area right there that's always been in the annexation, and it's always been in my plans. And all of the improvements that are recommended in these two plans are to serve that area. If there's other areas beyond that, say up higher above Lambert Park, they are not addressed here. Impact fees collected now are not going to be used to provide facilities for those people. I've recommended that when and if that ever happens, that those folks, they commission a study on the master plans and to see what improvements need to be made to serve their area.
Can you pick that location south of Lambert versus the other ones for a reason?
That one is always been in the annexation declaration. It's low enough in elevation that it can be served, just like it's in the statute. That's just always been in the plan.
So you haven't looked at anything north of Alpine then, correct?
We have looked at it, but not to include in a master plan.
Okay.
No.
Yeah. It's above that 5350 elevation.
Yeah, so they'd all be culinary lots and at this 11X rate.
And it's a bit of a squirrel moment, but I think we should think, we probably should discuss just annexing that portion. We've talked about it for a long time, but south of Lambert, but
You're talking about Fitzgerald?
Fitzgerald, yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Any more questions for John?
Well, I just had maybe just an observation, or maybe I can understand this better, is these are impact fees and rates when we do have aquifers and runoff. So this is only looking at that portion of the water needs for our community, right? This is all assuming that we have water.
There is that, yes.
Okay.
One of the things that Shane has been pushing and been involved in the last couple of years is to get additional water supplies from central Utah. That the city has always had the water there. They've just never been able to obtain it. And this is one of the ways to diversify your sources a little bit more reliable than.
So is that funded then on existing residents? Again, would that then be part of a rate study, or would that be part of an impact fee study? Or would that be that crossover that we've talked about where it would actually affect future growth and current residents?
Great question. The city has already funded that. It's constructed. But if you'll look in the impact fee analysis for the pressure irrigation system, you'll see that that's an existing facility that we can allow future growth to buy into. And so there's a portion of that future growth will pay for through impact fees.
Okay.
Yes.
Per, some of the comments, there are parts, and this applies to PI as well, with low pressure today. As I read this, I think these projects, when built out, would address all of our low pressure situations.
Yes.
We'd kind of have a reliable,
Yes.
consistent system. Yeah.
And I should take a note and say that we've set a level of service and we try and maintain over 40 PSI. And to some people that may not be adequate, but in order to do more than that, it would be a huge, huge undertaking. Just the way the system is laid out. There's areas that 40 PSI is about the best you're going to get, and you're going to have to design your irrigation system accordingly. But
You know how you can check your internet speed? Can you check your PSI?
very good.
Yeah.
You can.
Yes.
Log.
Okay,
I can,
on our app.
oh, not on your app,
Okay.
unless you had a device on your system. I mean, yeah.
But 40's the benchmark. 40's the benchmark.
That's the
So-
minimum.
Okay.
It can go up to 120, 140, and but 40 is the minimum we should.
Okay,
And the state minimum is less than that, right?
On the pressure irrigation system, the state really doesn't set any standards. On the culinary, they do.
Yeah.
And you can read in the culinary system, there's the minimum standards there. 20 PSI when there's a fire flow, 30 PSI in it's a peak hour. The most busy part of the day is 30 PSI, and then the peak day is 40 PSI.
Okay. Any more questions? So do we just,
Public hearing.
oh. We'll open public hearing for resolution R 2022-10.
I think for the record, we probably should do them separate.
Okay. Anyone? Okay, with no participation from the public hearing section is now closed. And then we need to vote on the resolution, is that right, or no?
I'll make a motion. We have to make a motion. I move to approve resolution R 2022-10, adopting the culinary water impact facilities plan and impact fee analysis as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, Jason Thielen moved and Greg Gordon seconded resolution R 22-10 for our impact fee for the culinary water. All in favor?
This needs to be a roll call vote, Mayor. Sorry to
Okay.
jump in.
Okay,
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Lon Lot, yes.
okay, it passes.
I'll make
Okay.
another motion.
Okay,
I move that we approve resolution R 2022-1, adopting the pressurized irrigation impact facilities plan and impact fee analysis as presented.
wait, do we have to have a public hearing for that first, though? Okay, so we're gonna open the public hearing for resolution R 22-11. Any comments? With no comments from our vast public, close the public hearing. I will now entertain a motion.
So Mayor, I did have one question on this one.
Okay,
And it's probably related. So the ERU calculation was the same for PI, even though these lots, some of the high elevation lots wouldn't have PI. But use that same number and you factor that differently.
I believe the numbers are different, ERUs versus ERCs.
Oh,
Yeah, so the pressure irrigation one would only apply if they have pressure, the ability to receive pressure irrigation service.
but, so I'm looking at page 7, it still shows an additional 1,100 ERUs. And, this one does have a different, anyway, but yeah.
you okay,
So
Greg?
it's just based on square footage then, as it shows in in the first table.
Yeah, so let's see.
That wouldn't be actually, this is part of the packet, Shane, is that based on an acre then?
Based on 40,000.
40,000. So Greg, your ERU question really, I guess, is based on the square footage. Is it, because that, but that doesn't, I have some questions on that, so I don't know when we get.
No, go ahead.
Because the quarter acre proposed, the half acre proposed are only $200 different. And then the 1 acre is $2,000 different than the half acre. So what I'm hearing Greg asking is how that either ERU or ERC, how that calculation come about.
As I recall, it's based on, we kind of sampled some different lots, looked at what % irrigated area they had. And John even has that in this table, % of lot irrigated on a typical quarter acre lot, it's about 52%, half acre 63%, 1 acre 66. And so I think that's, John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that factors into why it's not like 2 times a.
You bet. Now, we did do the % of lot irrigated, so looking forward to help you plan. But the actual measured per ERU per connection, we actually took the actual use. You took those people in that zone and said, you're averaging this amount of use. And in this zone, you're averaging this amount of use. And that's how we compared the 2 ERUs. And so that's based on actual use. The % irrigated will help you plan when you're looking forward and you're seeing new developments and new buildings come in. That's how you can estimate what they're going to be using. And as far as the ERCs go, if you could go to, let's see, probably table table 31 in the impact fee analysis. The current ERU is 2,700, the build out is 3,800, and the undeveloped is 1,072. And it just happens to be that just the way the calculations went, they look the same as the 2 different plans. They're different.
Yeah.
But they happen to look the same.
Right, yeah, I noticed in the culinary, it was 45% growth and PI was 36. But yeah, the numbers end up similar. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. Can I jump for it? I was waiting.
Go ahead.
I make a move to approve resolution 2022-1 adopting the pressurized irrigation impact facilities plan. And
-11, I think.
-11, thank you. Including the pressurized irrigation impact facilities plan and impact fee analysis.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Jason Thielen, second by Lon Mott. Any discussion, questions?
Yeah, I'd like to address staff then on this. Has Jed looked at this? Can you tell us how you feel, how the staff feels about this and the direction? Again, these are big figures that
Well, I'm glad to be to this point. It'll be interesting to see once we get the new rate structure in place, if it forces people to conserve. We'll know, we'll be doing updates and things, and if we have to back it off because all of a sudden people are cutting back 15 or 20% or something like that, we'll see that change. And then if we get some history on that, then we can back off on our improvements. I mean, this is based on usage that we're seeing.
I mean, it's all data driven. They're not pulling numbers out.
No,
They're not
no, I
guessing what data.
I understand, but
You're just talking about the sheer numbers that it's gonna be increased. But I
Yeah.
think what Shane said though is, you're having developers come in and saying, are your numbers right? Our numbers are so low and our fees are so low that they're wondering if we made a clerical error in charging them. So to me, it just shows that it's time that we adjust to the market and time to adjust to what our facility build out is gonna cost us and plan for that. And I think this is what it's gonna take.
And the usage we're seeing, if we back way up, 20 years, 20 plus years, the irrigation system, all we had to go off of is the metered culinary use that provided indoor and outdoor water. So as best it could be separated out, that amount of water was looked at, and then it was essentially times by 2 for demand or something, close to that. So it should have been able to cover the use at this level, but now we're up here with what people are actually using. And so it made our system, our kind of the backbone of the system, undersized right now for what people are using. So that's where we've been hurt a little bit. But it was well planned out. People are just using more water than we ever thought they would. So.
Any more questions? With that, let's take a roll call vote. Let's start with Lon Lot.
Lon Lot, aye.
Jessica Smuin, aye.
Kelly Law, aye.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Okay. Resolution passes. Let's go to item C. Shane, that's the mid-year budget adjustment.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay. So I wanted to do just kind of a little bit of a house cleaning budget to clean some things up at the mid-year point. My list out here. So this addresses a few different things, and I'll just go over this, and then we can have our public hearing prior to adoption. So I've mentioned a few times in our financial report that our capital outlay for equipment was showing overspent, and that's because we bought a truck last year. Knowing it wasn't in the budget, knowing the money was there, and we just do this cleanup once we came to this point. So that's the first item, the 30,000. That money's just coming from fund balance in the capital projects fund. On the PI fund, in the budget, we refinanced our PI bond. Borrowed an extra $1 million to construct the CUP pump station and filter building, which should have been enough, didn't end up being enough in the end. In the budget, we did not pull those funds, the 565,000 left of the $1 million. The other part of it was spent the year before. We hadn't pulled that into the budget as revenue. So that's cleaning this item up. So that's bonded funds. And then I mentioned before the CUP water payment. That payment was not in the budget. So we're pulling money from fund balance to cover that. On the ARPA funds, what we're recommending to give us the maximum flexibility in spending those funds and what we use them for is to take their standard allowance for revenue loss, which even if you don't have to prove that you lost revenue. It's just a standard allowance, which really puts these funds more like CARES Act funds, where we took our money, put it all to public safety, and then we're able to use those funds for other projects. This is a similar situation. So we're just proposing to replace funds that were already budgeted in the general fund, in administration, planning and zoning, streets with the ARPA funds that we've received so far, which is about half, about 621,000. And then take those monies that were originally budgeted and move that over to kind of a special projects fund where we won't have the time limitations that come with the ARPA funds, and it'll give us maximum flexibility. So this, I mean, we have our recommendations for how we should spend that, but this isn't down to that detail right now. It's just making it so we can show that we're using these funds. We have to fill out a report showing how we plan to use them. The other benefit to this, if you have more than $750,000 in a budget year, I think it's a budget year, might be calendar. No, it's budget year. You have to do a second audit called a single audit. So there's additional expense and work that goes into that. If we spend half of it this fiscal year and half next, we should be under that threshold and not have to expend those extra funds on audits.
That's why you're 629,000.
Yeah, well, it just so happens for our size city, it works out
perfect.
great because they gave us half already and the other half should be coming this spring, I think. So it works out well for us. So that's what's included in this proposed budget amendment to the budget.
Have you heard anything about the second round of the ARPA grants for infrastructure?
They keep talking about it, but I don't know if it's kind of tied up because they have this bill going through the legislature requiring cities to install, or any water provider to install pressure irrigation meters. Well, they're talking about taking 200 million from state ARPA funds and putting it into that project.
Yeah, that's gonna be huge, because I think the first year, if you're early adopter, it's 70% of the cost they're
Yeah.
covering.
But that whole deal is gonna have its own set of problems because we had problems getting meters when we did it 4 or 5 years ago. And
Yeah. Austin? Oh, okay, so we're not recording.
It's probably the delay.
Exactly when
Yeah.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. 1, 2, 3.
Lorraine says it's barely up. Lorraine says she's seeing it right now.
I'm talking.
That's good because I don't have my.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Let's
Are we
see, let me
supposed to
try
test,
something
test?
else.
No, Shane has his on.
Let's try this. How about now? Okay, so everything seems to be working. Okay, all right. I will let the mayor know. Okay, thanks.
Okay, we seem to be back. Austin, do you want to take over?
I'll go ahead and take over. So let me just get this up on the screen. Maybe. Okay. All right. So what we're looking at here is, we're proposing an update to the trail master plan. What the proposal is essentially is we would be changing, and this is weird, it's not, can't see on my, hold on. Let's see if you can see my screen, because if I can't show this map. That's what I'm using. I'm using the click share. So it should be.
Yes, I actually do.
Try closing this and starting it again.
Guess it won't be any different if you plugged in another way, would it also do?
Always full when I.
Yeah, maybe I can go to the podium. I'll try that.
Whether they're in.
Mayor, should I use our Carlo? Mayor, Carlo.
She's busy recycling.
Are you expecting Mountain View Academy to come see you? Mountain View Academy,
Oh, are they here?
No.
right there.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, I didn't hear back from Wes, so I didn't know. But I was gonna tell you to come the public hearing section, which is at the beginning.
But she did, she said 7:08. right after the play. And, oh, wait, you guys started 6.
We started 6.
Oh. just kidding.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I didn't get
Okay,
the crap
well,
out
while
of
we're
there.
waiting for Austin, if you wanted to, can we do that?
Maybe, here we go.
What's your name again?
Stephanie.
Stephanie, yes.
Shane, can
Okay.
we do this or no? Is
Yeah.
that okay? Stephanie, if you wanted to come up to the mic and introduce yourself.
Sorry, by the way, I gave you my stuff.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. I thought we were invited to come here
Yeah,
at
this is
7.
great.
7. So like I said, my name is Stephanie Carlton-Ledwidge. I am here on behalf of Mountain View Academy, where I serve as the Development Committee Board Chair. I apologize for the somewhat casual look.
I love it.
Just came back from
Go
just barely
Cougars.
driving back. But so every year Mountainville has a annual fundraiser. It's the big one that we do. And in recent years, well, it usually generates a lot of parent involvement and, you know, community building. So in recent years, we've had this fundraiser in connection with Earth Day. So where, for example, last year we had that and we had a lot of parents show up. We had an incredible turnout where people came and cleaned out the school, cleaned out, we tried to beautify the yard and stuff like that. So this year we wanted to invite the city to partner up with us for more community-oriented project, if you will, where we thought we would clean out the Legacy Park. And the park, as you know, it's a wonderful space for kids to play on the playground. They learn about subjects in classrooms and they're able to go out and learn about the subjects outside in that park. And also it's usually a good option for parents for pickup. So that's why we thought of, that kind of project would be wonderful and it would, I would think serve our purpose and hopefully yours, where we can come and clean or do any other kind of project that, if the city has another need that we can come and help as a community. So that's what we wanted to present as an option, and we hope that would, start building more relationship between Mountain View Academy and the city of Alpine.
Shane, is that something that would be amenable? And is there something or something specific that you would like?
It would be fine. I haven't walked kind of the grounds over there for a while to know, what issues we have. I do know that in the spring, early spring, we'll be replacing the irrigation system. So everything's going to be, not everything, but there's going to be a lot of trenches and a lot of work going on over there. But there will be areas that won't be touched also. So cleaning it up, I think would be fine.
We were thinking about the fundraisers around April 22nd. So is that around the time where?
You know what? I need to actually check with Cal and see what he thinks the schedule is going to be on that, because he was planning for, once we got our seasonal help on board to start then. So I think it could be under construction right then.
So,
Because I think it'll be right around the end of March when we would start, weather dependent.
okay. Oh, like I said, any other suggestion you would have, we would, welcome and work with that.
But if that doesn't work out, like a cleanup of Burgess
Yes,
Park or
right.
something like that would
Right.
be great.
Yes, we would love it.
And then probably any year after or anytime after that has been done, then it would be fine to do Legacy Park also.
Oh, yes,
So
But just the
April
timing of it.
22nd is the timing of your
fundraiser,
and all that,
yes.
where you're gonna have a bunch of volunteers and people.
Earth Days,
Okay.
yes. So we would send out a bulletin to our student body, the parents, let them know.
Well, that's great. Well, Shane, can I just coordinate with you then and then get with Stephanie and Wes at Mountainville and
Yep.
make sure we have a place for them to go if it's not Legacy, Burgess, or whatever.
Bonnie,
It's,
We do have our trail thing on Earth Day.
I know that's
What I was gonna say
Oh,
with
sure,
Will,
sure.
if she wanted to coordinate with Will.
Awesome, okay.
So,
70 like. You gave me your spot. Well, thank you. Thank you for having this.
Great.
thank you,
Thank you,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Appreciate it.
Okay, got it.
Okay, Austin,
yeah. Okay, all right, so here we go. Finally, we got this on the screen. So what you see on the screen in front of you is our proposal to update the trail master plan for Lambert Park. This is the south end of Lambert Park by the water tank. Your orientation on the screen here is east is at the top of the screen. South is to your right. So this is kind of where the Zag Trail is, Zig or Zag? Zag, and some of the dog trails. So what you see here on your screen, the blue trails are flow trails or downhill only mountain bike trails. The orange trail is a multi-use trail. And then the white on the far left-hand side here would be a hiking only trail. The red represents areas to be reclaimed. And so the reason why we're proposing this is it's sustainability. It's going to make better trails that are going to last longer and require less maintenance. And it's going to create some good trails for the city. Sometimes, more trails isn't always better trails. And so we may lose some trails here, but overall, we think it's going to be better for the city. And Will or Breezy can comment more on this, but I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, that's pretty much what we're changing here. It's really, again, it's the south end of Lambert Park. And maybe if I go up a couple screens here. So this is kind of some notes that just kind of show, I guess there is some other changes here. So all these little notes here are kind of what the changes would be that we'd be making.
And Austin, I think were all of these notes here on the screen in the latest Lambert Park map that you emailed out?
Yeah, so if I go
yesterday.
down one more, is it maybe one more screen? I don't know if it's in the packet.
I don't
Maybe it is.
think it is.
It's not in the digital packet. So it's, yeah, I don't know what happened there, but so the one that was emailed out, you will see, it's a whole new, it's basically a whole trail map plan for the entire city with all the updates. And the walking trail is now on there. It's a couple of tweaks in Three Falls. And then, but the most notable would be this here that you're seeing in the south end of Lambert Park.
This is the circled area on the bigger map?
Yes, this would be that circled area right here.
Right there, yeah.
So kind of, where I don't know if you're familiar with the Stake Center that's there.
Yep.
And the south parking lot. This is just that area up above
And
there.
then can you go over to the legend on the right or on the left?
Yeah.
Sorry, same page. Not that one, the
Not this one,
previous one.
previous one.
Alpine plan, see the blue dots?
Yeah,
So that would be where is that? So if you look over go down by Lakeview. Right there on the left. Yeah, right there. See that? Those blue, that blue, is that blue on your trail map? And is that proposed? Is that what the planning commission's proposing right there?
so that's been on our map since, I think, 2020.
Okay.
But that's just a proposed alignment. If you notice, it's kind of like in straight lines.
Mhm.
Real trails don't look anything like that. So
Yeah,
when we do get the real trail alignment, it'll change. This is just kind of, we're saying we want to go from point A to point B. So
Okay.
that's essentially what we're trying to show on the over there on Lakeview Drive.
Okay, but we would be approving this too, or this was already approved previously?
Yeah, that was already on there, so that's not new to this map.
Just
to our
the,
trail
just the
master
stuff
plan.
that's in pen. Okay,
Mhm, yeah,
got it.
yeah, sorry for the confusion.
Okay,
I have a couple questions. Carla,
Yes, sir.
Mayor.
yes,
Mayor
Jason
Merrill.
Thielen.
So a question, I listen on the planning commission and the city council. The walking trail, does that hook into our existing walking trail?
Into Judy's.
And is it going to connect and loop around, or does it just connect to go up into the forestry area?
Our goal is, we don't have money yet, but our goal would be to take that up, go up around Spring, back down, and then you have a loop there. So you have a complete loop here at the bottom, loop up there, and now this loop on this.
Great.
So, is that what you're asking?
Yep, I think walking trails with loops are awesome, so.
Yeah, oh yeah, because you don't want to walk the same thing, you don't want to turn around and come back down and say.
Yeah, so I listen, and again, I think it's fantastic to Lon's point, I'm not a trail building expert. But the sustainability of them and the flow of them, I think are gonna pull a lot more people over there. So just a couple of questions. Do we survey the border on the east side? Did we survey the border on the east side of Lambert up there by Crossfire Trail?
Oh, yeah, they're using the Forest Service survey.
So we didn't resurvey, but we took those. Do you remember how where the fence is right now, it went back another 12 feet?
Yep.
I guess the question.
We are inside that fence, just like we would Crossfire.
Okay.
Just to be safe, we thought we should not create a good point.
But to your point, there's two reasons why what's nice about this is we did this for a purpose, right?
Right.
And the purpose is Crossfire. How do we get more people up there? What's wonderful about this is, to your point, we created the trail. This is going to get people up on the trail.
Yeah.
This, and obviously we talked about the other, the building that we were going to put on it.
Well, and
Just
just
as a-
right on, the whole goal here, that's why we took the walking, we take the biking, and then we come up with a couple of trails that make people want to go back up. This thing, it's
Right.
amazing what the use will change on that south end.
So let me ask you this, because again, from a trails perspective, I'm not an expert and we give that. From a perspective of just thinking through how we can make that one area more, unsexy for shooters. The closer we have that cross trail move along that edge where they all walk over, the better. And I noticed it was down off the trail a bit.
It's down off a bit.
Is there any way we can just, not the whole trail, but just that part where it comes up and hug the property line for it?
We are gonna do a little tweaking up there in that, so Shane, if we want to, say, go up and create that survey marker for it, and Bryce and I will take that and we'll go right up to our survey.
Well, the Forest Service put their markers in, so we should be safe to go right up to that.
So let's do it.
So.
Yeah, we were being a little careful.
Yeah.
Try not to get in trouble with the Forest Service on wilderness, a little something like that.
Right, because I think ultimately, anything we can do, that's just a tiny thing, and it may not make a big difference in the whole scheme of things, but
Anytime you push it up there, I think
Yeah.
it makes a big, I really do. I think the closer we get to where they normally set up, the better off there. So I agree with you 100%.
and what about, we talked a little bit about this, but a fence, whether it be a lodgepole fence along that area for 100 feet or whatever, not the whole thing.
And then some signage.
And then, yeah,
They'll still.
That's still in the
Yeah, we're
plan.
Still planning on that, once we get it still. We still have the posts. So more than one. I did find a group that will put it up for us now, so.
okay, I don't know if you're planning on doing that with these funds here or a later time, but
No, we'll need a little more to do that part, but the trail part of it, he can do what we're talking about with that. So, but the fence is bought,
so the fence is bought.
fence is bought.
We potentially can move that trail for, 30 yards, 20 yards up along.
Right along that area, where we talking.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then we talked about, again, the building, we're not doing the building. I listened to your jabs on the planning commission, and it's a valid point. You got me a great one, but truth be told,
I almost said that.
Yeah. I was listening, I heard Austin say it's a flawed thinking, but-
Don't make it that obvious, Will.
but the point is, there's other things we could do. On that particular one, I was the one who called up Shane and said, hey, Shane, let's take it down but it's not to say that we won't do in the future, but let's try other things first. But more than the shooting issue for me was the look from the bottom, and that was more my concern.
First of all, they're using it to shoot from.
Right.
Secondly,
Yeah.
we really want that sticky.
And I actually think when Shane went and talked with them, they thought it was actually on Alpine City property when they were sticking their ring. I mean, all we would have to do is put signs up and a fence up, and that wouldn't be a problem in the future. But with that said, I like what we're doing here. It's awesome. So a fence along the east border, what about a sign right there at the spot? We talked about signs. The thought is if a sign was right there where you exit into the federal,
Yeah, we were gonna put the no shooting.
no shooting, right?
That's what we were so.
Do you see any benefit of putting a sign up there that shows the park layouts of the trails, as well as, a trail that shows it going up to the mine and a trail that shows it going down south in the federal land, showing a park system right there at the entrance of that? Do you see any benefit? I don't know.
So yeah, it's there.
I was gonna say.
Okay.
It's under now. That's what
Yeah.
I said. I think we have, because we go above that and show that area too, and then so we can highlight it a little higher, maybe bring it out, but it's, I would say that's.
So if there's, that's, I like that.
I
Jed's still on it. We were
Yeah.
Working on that just this last week.
I don't think it shows like a trail to the mine.
Well, we can label
But,
it. We can label
yeah,
it.
we
can
could.
label it.
It's just a cool thing if someone's standing and they see a trail going this way and it going this way. Anyone who sits on top of a trail and shoots from there, to me, is not practicing gun safety. So it's the little things. And lastly, I remember hearing on the city council, they brought up reclaiming the road above the water tower. And Shane kind of mentioned fire related things there, but I never heard on the city council recording Chief Patton's opinion. I mean, I would like to, if I could, if it made sense for Chief Patton to reclaim some of that above the water tower, only because it acts as the path.
Which one are you talking?
It's the one right above the water tower where it heads up. Because there's the one that goes along the side there along,
Right. There's one on each side.
but if there's any way along there that Chief Patton could look and say, you know what, if he says we need it, then obviously we need it. But if he says, we can just with our trucks run over whatever vegetation is there, because they're not going to be on scrub oak. There might be a benefit to our stopping people shooting by taking out this old road that goes to exactly where they were going before.
And we originally gave him money, but full much, so that's something that we can, and feel comfortable with it.
I just never heard Chief Patton on that.
I think at that point,
two
Chief
roads.
had to go to a meeting. He had to be down to Highland for a meeting down there, and Chief Jake was here, yeah, Beck was here.
So do you have the map up there or I guess you can see here.
Can you bring it down? To
Yeah. So the question for you, Chief Patton, is if the city wanted to reclaim some of that, Shane mentioned that there might be a need for, brush trucks or something to get up there really quick.
How far does the road go? Does it just go up to where the top trails are right there? Does it just go up and down?
Yeah,
Yeah.
at the forest boundary.
Right at the forest.
Right at the black line.
Okay.
It gets pretty steep after that point.
Well, and there's two roads that run parallel. You'll see it's underneath the black border. So you actually do have two routes.
And one of those, the more southern road, there is a section there directly south of the water tank where it kind of meanders across the property line onto the Patterson side. But that could be fixed. But I think what we should do is go up there in the field and look at the roads and things. I mean, my big thing's always been if some kids are up there and they start a fire, the brush truck can get there quicker and put it out before it burns,
Right.
the rest of the park up. To me, that's huge. That's been my reasoning for saying,
Right.
hey, I think we should keep these roads.
But to your point, if Chief Patton, if you go look at those roads that go from the top of the water tower up to the federal land to the east, they're very rutted and they're very difficult to drive with a 4x4. If we were to revegetate them with scrub or whatnot, where there wasn't a path there, you might actually have a better opportunity of getting a brush truck through there than the existing rutted roads. So again, it might be,
Do people have access to it?
what does that mean?
Is the public driving up there? Can they, are they?
We're not supposed to.
Every now and again, you'll see someone's car up there, but it's illegal right now to do that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
think,
I think we just.
I
let
think
them know.
my observation, the few times that I've went through the park to look at some infrastructure or something, to me, there's significantly less motorized vehicles up there. I mean, I've noticed roads kind of growing in, you know, with vegetation and things, and yeah, I think we should just go look at it in the field. I mean, the one thing, if you revegetate it, eventually the brush is gonna come back in and then it won't be passable at all. And if you put rocks there, then they would inhibit.
Right.
You know, but I get what you're saying, what you're trying to do.
Because it's a 40-yard space. I'm making up a number, but what I'm looking on the map, but 40 yards from maybe the top of that too, where people would typically stop. Maybe you can just go whether it's, I mean, so that's my thing. If there's a way to do it, I would like to add it to it and just revegetate that and take the road trail and,
Okay, so
sorry.
I take it, so let's do this. So let's have Shane and Chief Patton look at that last part. But this resolution is for the trails that we're looking at now. If there's no further questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I do have a question. I need a little more clarification on Jason's question about the walking trail loop. As it show, whoops. No, back
So
to,
here, I found out that we do actually have the updated trail master plan here in the packet. So that is what you're seeing here on the screen. So if we
Okay.
pan over to the right, we can see that the walking trail. Judy's
Okay.
Trail, is that the one you're referring to, Lon?
Judy's Trail, yeah,
Yeah,
which is the.
so I'll zoom in. On that other map, it was
purpley
dashed,
Color,
but now on here,
is
it's
it that purpley color or something? What is-
No,
is
it's a blue one. It goes like in a circle, like a.
Yeah,
line.
so the new one though, the new walking trail that's white on the
oh, okay, the new one.
proposed thing.
I'll go back to the other screen.
So the white one actually is
Right
already there. You know that, right?
So, but as far as, is it looping? I didn't understand.
Oh,
I
you're
didn't
talking about
see
from the
his
bottom?
hands.
Yeah. He said it was.
He said it
did-
connected down at the
Yeah,
bottom.
on the white,
It will connect, that's one of the things we're gonna.
over down by the tank, water tank or
No, no, no,
something?
down at
By
the
parking
bottom,
lot, when it will.
Yeah, down
in
there.
that area.
Going to the,
down at the bottom.
no, but on the south side,
Okay,
does it loop up
Oh.
and go back
The
down?
other end.
I don't know if I can show you.
You can draw on the, on that screen and the thing there, just pick a color.
Back
And then use your
down on
finger to
the
draw.
south side?
Do this one and get us to this.
So are you talking
Two Judy's.
two
Which is,
Judy's?
which is right,
Well, Judy's is right over
Can you
here.
pull
right
that
there,
down
top
just
of
a
the
little
arrow.
bit,
Yep,
Austin?
right
So-
there.
Oh,
Okay,
That's where Judy's is right now.
right, and it goes up though to the top.
And it goes this way, and now you'll be able to take this loop and go up to the top. And then come down one of the others.
your question's on the southeast.
On the
corner of
southeast
the park,
side, so
right?
this is on the
South-
north.
So I think they're saying go
So
up
go
the
up,
white and
Mark.
come
Oh,
down the
Up to go
zag.
down,
Yeah. like
Down
that.
Zag.
Okay.
Zag.
The orange.
come down a bike trail.
Yes.
It's a
yes, because
multi-use
It's
trail.
a multi-trail,
multi-use.
it's
Okay.
multi-use. that
So
one.
for
That's all.
horses,
That answers
bikes
my
and.
question.
The
So
orange is.
right here is the connection. So the yellow connects to the white.
Yep.
And that will give you a walking loop.
Okay,
Yep, perfect, thank you.
okay.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'm sorry, did you wanna-
I was just gonna add one thing on, I think a sign up there would be very important, because we go to all this work, putting in trails and all this stuff. I think ultimately, though, they're on federal land, we're gonna depend on federal enforcement. I think that sign is key to making them understand that that's not illicit what they're, shooting up there. So anyway, just that comment.
I'll make a motion, and I know this is about the trail that we have here, but we're reclaiming other areas right now, so I'd like to add that one in as well, but I make a motion that we move to update the trail master plan. That it be approved as proposed with the additions of clarifications that the trail system of Crossfire that crosses the property line into the entrance of federal land be moved closer to the property line. That the sign placement be established at the intersection of the Forest Service lands showing Lambert trails as well as the trails going into the federal land. And that we consult with the fire chief about council on if or any of those roads up there we could reclaim. Guess that's the right word.
Revegetate.
Revegetate. So work with the fire chief to determine if we can revegetate those roads above the water tower.
So we have a motion by Jason Thielen. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Kelly Law seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, sorry.
Question.
Discussion?
The question I have is that, how is this funded? How are we funding this project?
This
That's-
is just an
that's the
update to the
next
trail
proposal.
master plan. I think the next thing on
The
the.
next thing on the
motion.
agenda
Okay.
will answer that question.
Perfect.
Kelly
Oh.
Law.
Sorry, Bonnie.
Okay, anything else, Jessica?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed?
As proposed.
Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, item E, approval of the Lambert Park Flow Trail proposal.
All right, so Shapeshift Terrain Parks is the group that's doing this work, and this is the estimate that they provided to us. So you'll see there's a breakdown of the cost for each item. So the green level, the blue trail, jump enhanced, lower wild car, so all of that stuff here, and then you see the reroutes to ZAG. So on this item, we're essentially what we're asking for is approval to move forward with this estimate. That's the estimated cost.
Okay, so
To do.
wait, Will, what happened? I thought it was gonna be more like 65.
We went to that, and then we went to our trail committee. We didn't see anything that we felt we should eliminate. So we're back to you saying, we're gonna do the reclaim and that stuff. We can come down, we got 5,000, the school is gonna come and help us, but if there's something else you want to take out, we need you to give us that advice, because as a trail committee, we didn't see what we could take out without ruining the park.
And these numbers, yeah, that's back, you're putting it together while he's there. These prices are less than about half of what a flow trail building is. Most flow trail buildings are $12 to $14 a litre foot to do a flow type trail. When we got this number, we were all shocked. I thought it was gonna be about 115, 120,000.
It would be nice to have them come to the mic when they're talking. When I'm sitting in a planning or listening to a planning commission meeting, I do not hear what's going on back there as well. As well. And it's really, you make interesting comments and I'd like to hear them.
So all the rehab that you're doing, so if you take out all the numbers that, you're talking about the lower Wildcat rehab of Ziggy and trail vegetation, are they doing all of that? And then the mountain bike team is doing trail vegetation. So there's no discount at all on the figure that I'm looking at. Is that correct?
It's $5,000 off.
It's only $5,000 off.
Yeah, that's what we worked that with him, with what he's not gonna do, we're gonna do for him.
The trail revegetation TBD, do we know what that's gonna cost? Is that part of what you say you're gonna get funds for?
That's what we're gonna do.
That's what we would do and have
With the school,
schools, mountain bike teams help with that and to, we'll have to do a little bit of work to get some topsoil. Because nothing's gonna grow on those trails for a while until we get some topsoil on it. And people will just use them. But once we get the new trails in, it will take traffic off of the existing ones. And I think some little signage, put in some sagebrush, I think will help keep people off of the trails that are eroded and just need to be decommissioned anyway.
Well, I've seen when you do trails, you come in with something that just chops up the old trail and there's no way anyone would use it. So is that,
They'd use a machine. We don't, if we had a machine, they'll charge for that. But yeah, you can
Okay.
use just a little mini X or a little
Mhm.
trail. Most of the time they use a little mini X.
So that's not part of the proposal.
Those are just for the
we'll
trails.
do it by hand.
Yeah.
We'll have to do it by hand. We're strawing it, then seeding it, and then putting in the brush back on it.
So Shane, I know in the past we've had in our budget, different things for Lambert Park. And you said that we haven't historically used that. What amounts does that come up to?
So I actually was looking at our budget, our projects list. So we had a line item, Three Falls Flow Trails and Lambert Park Walking Trail. We had 150,000 in there. The Three Falls Trails are being funded privately.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you. And so it's, those funds in my mind could be freed up and used here.
Okay.
So, yeah, we have money in the current budget.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I think I didn't understand when Shane, Will mentioned that they're setting up a new entity that's gonna receive some donations and whatnot. Would those play a part into this?
Yeah, we've had an attorney who lives here in town. I've been reminding him that just needs to get, the paperwork needs to be sent to the IRS. We've got it approved through the state. It just hasn't gotten IRS approval. He said he was gonna do it last month, hasn't been done, so we're getting after him. Even if he can give me the paperwork and I can get another attorney just to submit it to the IRS.
But Will mentioned that you had like a private donor who might donate 50,000. Would that,
Yeah.
how would that play into, would it play into this?
That pays for Judy's
Judy's
trail.
trail.
Yeah, and any other funds, I've had other businesses saying we can establish this and employees, if they want to just have X amount taken from a paycheck. That'll provide another revenue to help maintain. But really, if we're taking, and there's been so much of saying Lambert Park is the crown jewel of Alpine, I think we need to start treating it that way. And saying, hey, it's gonna sting, the price is gonna sting right at the beginning, but I think once we get it done, and in 5 to 10 years, as you see how it plays out, it will be less just random trails here and there. I think it'll flow a lot better. And really, we don't have to spend as much time reworking trails that have been just weren't built properly. Because when we have our trail days, it's always the same areas that we have to fix.
So we have 150,000, but right now we paid for a $50,000 trail that we haven't been reimbursed yet
No,
for,
not
so
yet.
we have 100. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move that the Lambert Park Flow Trail proposal from Shape Shift Terrain Parks be approved as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion by Greg Gordon, second by Jason Thielen to approve the Lambert Park Flow Trail proposal. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is it a roll call? Oh, no,
I
I'm
have a
sorry.
comment.
Discussion.
Comment and discussion.
So with that, would we need to make an adjustment to the estimate to the $5,000 credit, or is that $5,000 credit built into the 89?
No, it would come off of that.
Okay, so we need to make an adjustment on that.
So, Greg, did you want to amend your motion to say 84, 495.60 instead of the 89?
Yes.
Okay.
And also on that, when we do a question on the nonprofit that is going to be set up, does this, when that money comes in, does it offset any of the monies we budgeted then for these projects, or is that just go in and more money spent on the trails?
But your first 50 that comes back to you directly for you, something you spent in your budget.
And offsets that
Yes,
Judy's
that's
Trail.
your money, it's gonna be returned to you, but they wanted to make the donation to you, but they can't.
Okay,
Because the way the trust is set up will not allow them to make it to an entity like you. You have to be totally
Okay.
separate from.
That's why we started this, and this is something that we've been talking about for
Okay.
years, and we want to get this done.
But that's what
So-
happened. And
so
Okay.
that's
From
what
then on, yes, we want to. It's Alpine City, but we have to set it up independent. And then that's money that's supposed to help you guys maintain. The Sunday breeze is not gonna still be here.
thank you. Okay, that's all, Mayor.
Okay.
And we did run into a situation one year with Alpine Days 2 or 3 years ago where Adobe wanted to make a donation, but it was a similar thing and they couldn't give it to us even though they wanted to because we didn't have
Sure.
So is that 501c3 a city nonprofit? Tell me a little bit more about where that entity will be held.
No, it's a
Yeah,
trail
that's
committee.
one that I took the liberty to just take care of it. And it'll be, right now, we've got a board of directors, we've got Will, myself, Trent. We may want to get Shane involved on that. So, but that's just a revenue of where we can get donations to help with maintenance, more trails, of getting another source of donations.
So if Adobe came to us, doesn't really help the city of Alpine.
Well, it does,
Well-
because we can use that if he wants to earmark it for the Alpine City Trail, but if we, the city doesn't have control of it because they really can't.
Right.
And it's just a way for us to get more trails. And if Draper's been great to help us out, if there's a way where we can help give them a couple $1,000s. If we have, it's just another revenue of getting donations where the city wouldn't have gotten it before. Where they'll just put a corporation or a company will just send it somewhere else.
Right.
If-
So were you going to add something to that?
I was just gonna say, donations to the city are tax deductible by citizens, but what Breezy is, what I understand, the trust restricts where that money goes. Has to go to a nonprofit or whatever, 501c3 organization. So all that is making it possible for the trust to donate money to the nonprofit, and then the nonprofit will give it to the city.
Correct.
So is it just understanding that the Judy's Trail will then have that money is already earmarked for that trail?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, any other discussions? Does this have to be a roll call? Because we're doing an amount.
I would say yes, and I would say not to exceed 85,000, so you don't get involved in dollars and cents, frankly.
So Jason, did you want to amend that so that the approval of those flow trails, the cost does not exceed 85,000?
Yes.
Greg and Jason.
Yes.
Okay, let's do a roll call vote. Let's start with Councilman Lott.
Yes.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Okay, the flow trails pass. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, item F. We are looking at an amendment to Alpine City Standard Specifications and Details for the Canyon Crest widening. This is a requirement that MAG is asking for our grant application, correct?
That's correct. So this is Jed. I've been silently listening online. Can you all hear me?
No, not at all.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Sounds like I'm coming in loud and clear. The mayor said it correctly there. The next 3 agenda items are actually kind of all the same thing as far as what MAG needs from Alpine City to continue to move forward with a project that is proposed to widen Canyon Crest Road from a 3-lane to a 5-lane road. And so in a nutshell, MAG needs our general plan to include a 5-lane road in the general plan. And in order to do that, we need to update our standard specifications and details, our transportation master plan, and then also a section of the design standards section of our ordinance. So those are the 3 updates that need to be made in order for things to move forward. That is the project in a nutshell. I can talk for the next 20 minutes about the project, or we can just take questions. Maybe I'll just briefly try to not take 20 minutes here and just kind of go over the project history a little bit. So as you are all aware, Canyon Crest Road / 4800 West or North County Boulevard, it changes names several times as it goes from the roundabout in Alpine all the way through American Fork. Anyways, this section of road specifically from about Healy Drive to SR 92 has seen significant traffic congestion in the last several years. Alpine, Highland, and Lehigh have all recognized this congestion problem, and it's not just Canyon Crest, but it is all the major intersections that enter into SR 92 from the north. So because of that, all these cities teamed up together back in 2018. We proposed a traffic study for North SR 92. We proposed that to MAG. That proposal was accepted. The traffic study was done recently. And one of the top projects highlighted in that traffic study was the need to add lanes at the intersection of SR 92 and 4800 West, and then extend that expansion. They actually propose all the way to the roundabout in Alpine. The project, in order to do that, that's actually would be a very large and expensive project. So in discussions with MAG staff, they suggested that we break the project into phases. And so this first phase is what is currently being proposed to MAG, and Austin is showing it right there. The first phase is highlighted in red, and it goes from SR 92 to Healy Boulevard in Alpine. On a staff level, we feel like this phase one is the most critical and important phase of the entire project. And just based on what we're seeing on a day-to-day basis, we really feel like this first phase, if it is done, it may or may not take care of the problem indefinitely. So we're not sure if phases 2 and 3, how soon they would come after. I really feel like this phase 1 will last us a very long time. So that is what is being proposed at MAG right now. The cost for phase 1 is estimated at $8,944,000. There is a 6.77% match requirement from the cities, and Alpine would only be required to pay the 6.77% of the project that is in Alpine. And I had those numbers, and I did not include them in the packet, but it's less than $100,000. It's very cheap money to get this project done. So you've all had a chance to read the staff report. I could go over all the details. I'm not sure if I need to at this point. Do you have any questions for me regarding what is being proposed?
Have there been very many changes? I know you presented this in detail a few months ago. Has there been anything that's really adjusted from that?
There hasn't been.
Okay.
So I do have an update. In the last COG meeting, we did get approved for an active transportation plan from MAG for this project. So looks like it's moving forward. It's something that they want to do. There's an interest. So hopefully we'll get selected in the end.
Yeah.
But in order for us to even contend, I mean, you're talking about less than 7% the cost of a project to have something that's going to benefit our entire city. But in order for us to even be competitive or even to be considered, we have to pass these resolutions.
Right. And Highland has a similar situation on their agenda tonight. They're doing the same thing.
I think we can pass them very quickly.
Yes, let's do it. Okay.
Were we supposed, when we updated general plan, do we need public input on that?
There's a public hearing at the planning commission.
At the planning commission,
Already been
there
here.
was.
Yeah.
I had done all.
We
3
held
days.
that last week.
Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move to approve resolution R 2022-13 amendment to the standard specifications and details as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Greg Gordon, second by Lon Lot. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a roll call. Again, it's a resolution.
Lon
Sorry.
Lot, aye.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Okay, resolution R 2022-13 passes. Okay, item G for resolution R 22-14, amendment to transportation master plan map, Canyon Crest widening. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Mhm.
I'll make a motion to approve resolution R 2022-14, amendment to the transportation master plan as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jason Thielen, second by Kelly Law. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, I'll start with the roll call vote from Mr. Thielen.
Did you already cover the details of that?
Yeah.
Jed,
What's that?
Were any of the citizens about it?
Excuse me?
So that affects my house directly, but no one told me about this meeting. I
So,
had to go to a Highland City meeting to find out that there was this meeting.
so there was a public hearing, was it last Tuesday regarding this?
And to the individual, 4800 West?
I'm sorry, was it sent? So we do a public hearing notice the way that we do all of our public hearing notices. So it's on the public notice website, it's on the city website. We send out, it's posted at City Hall and around town.
So there's no information directly sent to the homeowners that are directly impacted.
There's,
How we found it at Highland City was that they sent notices to people that were directly impacted on 4800 West. And we found out this one meeting was at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, their public notice section of their ordinance probably has that requirement.
right, so in our ordinance, we send out letters for zone changes, and that's the only thing that our city ordinance requires us to notify via letter. But we have all the other methods that we notify things.
So when will the, just like the city code, when do the property owners that are affected by it, when do they get notice?
So at this point in time, what we're doing tonight is we're voting on, they're voting on three things. One is standard specifications and details, which means they're voting on a set of engineering drawings to have a wider type of street. Two, they're voting on a transportation master plan update, which would show a 5-lane road on our street master plan for future purposes. And then the third thing that we have on there is, let's see, where is it?
The design standards.
Yeah, the design standards. So, and that's an ordinance change, which changes our ordinance so that in the future, if the city decided to do a road, they could, because it's now in our ordinance.
Because right now we can't even apply for the funding unless these changes happen into our ordinance.
And this is not a public hearing.
Sorry.
But
You did have a public hearing last week, so
Yes, at the planning commission.
was it well attended?
It was not well attended.
Which
Okay,
is very typical.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of people that come out for public hearings.
I
It's
think
very
when we
rare.
come out, you know, a 5-lane highway was gonna go down that road. I mean, I think that's why we're all here. Well, we were in Highland. We were at their city council meeting when that engineer stated that you guys were actually voting on it tonight or something to that effect. We're just trying to understand what's going on, so. At this point, we
Yeah,
is
I mean,
Highland in there, is it their planning commission tonight? Is that what it is?
it probably keeps switching things up, but I think it,
They're in planning
Yeah.
commission, so it's their, is it their public hearing then? for
Their
public-
lobby
is full. Yeah, their lobby's full, so they're doing it as both. I mean, they had their initial. You know, they talk about, we know their agenda.
Yeah, okay.
But they gave the opportunity for
Couple
the
months ago.
public to be a part of the, I guess we get it.
When Jed said we don't qualify unless we do A, B, C, D. as I
yeah.
recall.
So, I mean, if you look at Alpine City, it's not hard to tell that there's only 3 ways in and out of town. So if anybody has a better idea of how we can take care of the traffic issue, I mean, the traffic backs up from SR 92 to probably you guys' houses every weekday.
During school, yeah. for
Yeah.
school. That's only during school, because anyone that
Well,
wants to get
that's-
out of here to go to the freeway,
What, 7 months of the year or whatever?
yeah, I mean.
So it's quite,
No, but you're right, but really in the end, anyone that wants to get to the freeway from Alpine City will not take Canyon Crest unless you live on that street. Most people hit this roundabout and go that way, right?
I think a lot of people up in the southeast quadrant of the city could come down Ridge Drive or Healy
I
Boulevard.
mean, they'll come down Healy, I get that, that's a small part of Alpine, though, that area. All I'm saying is most of the backside of Alpine, the northeastern part, they can't really get that direction without going on the back streets and up and hit Healy, right? I mean, they're all gonna come out on the main street this way.
My experience actually has been a little different. Everyone up around even Lambert Park area,
Yeah.
because you come down around that Mountainville Academy and you never know what's gonna happen there and get backed up forever. So most people are coming down
Healy Boulevard.
Healy Boulevard and then heading over to Canyon Crest and heading out so they don't have to run the risk of
What about the
being stopped out. Yeah, it's a good question. Is that access gonna eventually connect onto this street or is it gonna connect out towards the American Fork Canyon?
So so Patterson Construction is working with Highland City. They don't want the connection to come through. Yeah. And so they are working on an alternate connection. But last I heard, the county was gonna do a rejuvenation pond at the gravel pit. But the land has been leased to a third party, and so that is no longer an option. So that's where it's at.
But that's part of Alpine City. So we determine if the road goes through, don't we?
No, it isn't part of,
Well,
well,
Not the
because it's
gravel
connecting
pit.
to another, not the
We
gravel
go to,
pit.
we go to the property line.
Yeah, so if there was a connection that goes through now, it would go through and come out on, by the mouth of the canyon, by the city sheds. If that road went through, the proposal was if they could get that gravel pit, it would go down another way, but it would have gone out to Canyon Crest, more
Which
than
just makes the
likely.
problem worse down there.
Correct.
Yes.
So who knows what that will be, Dan, but it sounds like some pretty solid things now.
There was a misunderstanding with the county. They didn't secure the land and the landowner. It's under contract, so.
So to answer these gentlemen's question on that, that upper connection, don't know on that, whether that'll ever go through now. It sounds like, because if Patterson's working with Highland City on that connection and they're not going to do it, then nothing.
well, there's
goes.
2 things. There's the connection through Viewpoint subdivision in Highland. I believe that will happen. The residents would like it to veer off and go down through the gravel pit.
I know city
Which
council isn't in favor of it. I've
it's
heard
only
from multiple members
be
of their
about
council.
100-foot fill to make that happen and big project. But that's not really a street that was designed to carry traffic. I mean, Canyon Crest Road, Alpine Boulevard, or sorry,
Westfield
Alpine
Road.
Highway and Westfield Road, they were more meant to carry traffic. The road up on top, it's
Yeah.
a, you get car sick going on it. So
That
it's,
sounds like what everybody's taking to get to Canyon Crest off of Healy. They're all taking that road, right? That's what it sounds like you're saying, is they're going up past Lambert. They're going through that more residential area to come down Healy to hit Canyon Crest. Is that? I guess what about the roundabout, from the roundabout to here? Is that gonna move to 5 lanes as well?
So I don't know if you guys heard Judd's report. When he talked about it, he thought that it's done in 3 phases, right? And the first phase is what they're gonna be working on. And Judd thought the first phase would be fine for the next, Judd, was it 10, 15 years?
Honestly, it could be indefinitely. It's really hard to say, but the first phase is definitely the critical phase.
No, the
No,
first phase is to
would
Healy
go to-
He's
Boulevard.
gonna show you here.
Here on the screen, so if you see in red, right at the bottom of the screen where it's kind of like a cross, a plus sign there. That's SR 92 intersecting with, you know, what Canyon Crest, or if you want to call it 4800 West or whatever you want to call it. But
Okay.
the first phase is the red. So the red,
It only involves like, not very, I mean, only one house in Alpine. Yeah.
it goes up to
there's
Healy
couple-
Boulevard.
Yeah,
That's
it
your-
probably 4 properties.
Yes. So gentlemen, we're gonna move on with the meeting here. So we had a motion and a second. If there isn't further discussion,
Where were we? What are we on?
we're on item G, resolution 2022-14, right? Jason Thielen made a motion. Let's see. Oh, wait a minute now. Sorry. Greg Gordon.
Yeah.
made the motion.
On this one, I think that was. the
No,
last
Greg was the
one.
last
I
one,
think
and this one was Jason
Jason.
Thielen and Kelly Law. Okay, so we have a motion on the table to pass resolution R 2022-13. A motion and a second. If there's no further discussion among the council. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry about that, because it's
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jessica Smuin, yes.
Lon Lot, aye.
okay. Resolution passes. Okay, item H, which is an ordinance change. Jed, are you still on? Did you have anything you wanted to say about item H, which is the design standards and sub definitions?
Not really. Really, all this section is doing is just adding a major arterial road, which would match the cross section that is being proposed at the MAG staff level.
Okay. Are there any questions for Jed? If there are not any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
But just to clarify if I can, then, this motion here is to, is this motion actually the one for the purpose of widening the road?
All of them are in a
It's
sense.
just a definition of what a major
This-
arterial road is.
This
Isn't that-
updates the development code to allow for a 58-foot paved major arterial street as far as roadway width is concerned.
Correct. And then one page up, it defines the right of way width for a major arterial road.
I guess I'm asking not only for the individuals that hear where we are in this process. Once we approve this one here, can the city move forward with this process, or does it still needs to come back to the city for another approval in the future?
So the way it's set up, we've applied to MAG, Mountain Land Association of Governments, for those that don't know, for funding for this project. These things had to be in place to be eligible for that funding. But they said there's this window from the time of application till a certain date where those things could be taken care of. Various cities throughout the county applied for projects that they have a need for. A committee will vote on different projects, and we're looking at money 5 years down the road.
Yeah, this isn't gonna happen for a while. This is
Yeah,
like, even
it's-
if we get approved at the end, was it end of the summer, end of the spring?
Spring.
This isn't gonna happen for years.
Yeah.
They do it, is it 3 to 5 years in advance?
It's 5.
Yeah.
So they do
That's
5 years in advance. So even if we get approved, it's not gonna start for another 5 years. And we might not get approved. Right now, we're in the preliminary stages of turning everything in to even be considered for approval. If we don't get approval, we're not gonna spend, the city's not gonna spend $8 million.
Sure. I was just thinking, so if we get approval, obviously we get those funds in at that point. It's pretty hard for us not to use the funds, I'm assuming, if we've gone to all that.
Well, yeah,
effort.
you talk about a project costing the city $8 million and then
Right.
we only have to
Most
output
of that,
100,000.
is that 8 million, most of that, is that Alpine's portion or is that Highland's portion?
No, that's for the whole phase, so it would be Alpine and Highland. So our portion for the city, the cost to us would be what, around $100,000
Yeah.
for a
Correct.
huge project like that.
So we pay 6.77% of what's within our city limits, which is the $100,000 roughly.
So these are things we have to do to be able to submit. But to your
Yeah,
point,
they're just going through, you're quite a few steps ahead of them, because they're like, yeah, we haven't even submitted anything to MAG, we're just talking about to see if it's even feasible, so that's why we're so surprised that you're so far ahead in the process, which is maybe good or bad, depending on how you look at it.
No, I don't, I mean, you know what, our schedules are a little bit different. You know, we have our planning commission meetings a week before theirs, basically, right? And they're just a week behind. But I'm assuming, because the deadline's coming up, they have to have this in.
Yeah, I was surprised they were very basic. I mean, the real reason we're here is because they brought that up. They had a senior engineer, somebody there that said, well, oh, right out. Because one of the city council members asked if, how is this effective if Alpine votes against it? Yeah, meaning, are we going to do this anyway and just cut the road off as soon as it hits Alpine? And it got the whole working together.
The way I look at it is we're planning for the future instead of reacting, you know, waiting for the road to be so overtaxed. If we have an opportunity for, you know, a state or federal entity to pay for what, 93.3% of a project, why wouldn't we do everything we can? And at any point you can refuse it, but I think it would be stupid. If it's going to help the infrastructure of your city and be able to service all your citizens, and I get it, I'm sorry if your house is on it, but we have to think about everybody in the city and what's going to benefit the majority of the citizens. And if you can do it at 6.7% of the cost, who's going to turn that down when it's going to benefit 99.9% of your population? Does that make sense? That's what we're looking at. We've got to think ahead. We've got to think ahead, and we've got to look at the big picture. You're not going to perish.
And just to tell you guys, it started way wider than where it is right now. It's been pulled back and reduced in width because.
So it's at 106 feet right now, and it was bigger than that.
Oh, yeah.
There's over there, they're saying this is what it is right now, but it could go different.
No, the way that, no, the way that the
Ours
project.
is gonna be small, so the
Smaller
portion
than
that's in
that.
Alpine will be reduced. So and Jed can correct me if I'm wrong, but ours shows 83-foot public right of way. And I know that further south you go, it's gonna be wider, maybe 100, whatever. But we did have kind of like our wish list. If we could make it as big and we couldn't, and it wouldn't impact anybody's home, it would be, 20 feet wider than it is right now. So we could get bike lanes and all that kind of stuff. But when we looked at that and we saw the impact that it would have on the neighborhoods, we thought, we need to try and keep this as narrow as possible. And so that's what we're voting on tonight.
So our planners are thoughtful of the situation, but we also have to look at how do we best service the community.
So if funding was secured for this, whatever timeframe it is, would it be out on public notice at that point to make a decision, or is it once the funding is acquired, it's kind of go ahead and move forward type deal?
I would assume once funding is acquired, we go forward. I think it would be idiotic of us not to take the funding and move forward.
but would it even come to the city at that point?
It would.
It
because-
You said that there might be, we have to put ourselves in a position to make it happen and then reassess at that point, what you said a few minutes ago, so I just clarify.
Yeah, I mean,
So it would end up coming back here because funds would have to be approved to be expended even for that $100,000.
that's true. We would have to appropriate those funds and we'd have to approve it.
As far as public input, that, it wouldn't be that, it would be more the city council.
I don't think we would do a public meeting at that point, since it's already been held.
At
Okay.
that point, we would be operating within our ordinance. So tonight we're updating our ordinance so that we can make that decision in the future if we need to with that funding. So
Okay, so did we have a motion on item H? Okay,
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-4 amendment to the design standards and subdivision definitions as proposed.
is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion by Jessica Smuin, a second by Kelly Law for ordinance 2022-04 for design standards and sub-definitions. All in favor?
Roll call.
Okay. Does this ordinance have to be,
Yes. resolutions and ordinances must be
Have
roll
to be
call.
roll call. Okay, before we do that, is there any further discussion? Lon?
04, let me pull mine up. I was on something different. I thought it was 14. 04. Okay, and the,
2022.
yeah, I got it.
Okay,
Okay.
if there's no discussion, Lon, will you start off the roll call?
Yeah,
vote?
Lunlot, aye.
Jessica Smuin, I.
Kelly Law, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Okay, the ordinance passes. Item I for accessory structures and swimming pools. Is that you, Austin?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this. So tonight, what we're looking at is we're looking at an update to our development code. This would make some changes to our setback standards. So currently, the way we do setbacks is we have a set of setback standards for main buildings, which would include things like houses or, you know, if you're in the business commercial zone, an office building. And then the other set of setback standards that we have is for accessory buildings or accessory structures. So that could be anything from a barn to a shed. Though they have their own set of setback standards. And so tonight, we want to propose that our ordinance be updated to adjust the language that we use when referring to accessory buildings. So right now, our ordinance, it just kind of uses a blanket term, accessory buildings, for any type of accessory structure. So right now, we've been kind of interpreting that things like pool houses and sheds and all those things fit underneath there. And we feel like an update is necessary to call them accessory structures so that it can apply to more things. And for example, we have like diving platforms, waterfalls, tennis courts, these types of structures that you don't think of them as buildings. And so we just want to update that language so that it says accessory structures instead of accessory buildings. There are a few places in the ordinance where we will still leave the language accessory buildings. And that would be when we're talking about like minimum square footage. So for example, if anything under 200 square feet doesn't typically need a building permit and can be closer to property lines when we're looking at like the height of a shed or something like that. Also, accessory buildings, we have a part in our ordinance that talks about how accessory buildings can't have any windows or doors that look onto your neighbor's property. And so we're leaving that in that section there, we're leaving the term accessory buildings there. And then third part was if you wanted to add on to your home, any accessory building that is within 12 feet of a home and connected to that home becomes a part of that home. And so in that section, we just leave the term accessory building. Apart from that, we also are proposing to add in a new section for swimming pools. So swimming pools are kind of a unique thing. They're in the ground typically, so they're not blocking views. They're not sticking up out of the ground. And so we're proposing that swimming pools have their own set of setback standards. And essentially that would be 10 feet from rear property lines, 10 feet from side property lines, and then 40 feet from a front property line. So basically the idea is that you would have the swimming pool behind your home and not in your front yard. So, but you can pretty much put it anywhere in your backyard or your side yard as long as it's at least 10 feet away from that property line. So that is kind of in a nutshell what we're proposing. And that would be changed in every zone in the city, all the residential zones. This change would take effect.
Any questions for Austin?
I don't know why we picked 40 feet, by the way. Why do we have to have it 40 feet off? I have a problem with attached accessory buildings being 40 feet off too. Here we are fighting over water. You know, we can't water our lawns as much, but we make it hard for people to actually use their property.
You mean off a front setback? Because
Yeah.
that's what it is.
But take my house, for example. You know my house. It is on a curve. My house doesn't have a side setback. You know, there's other house, but even if it is on a corner or on a front, Why is 40 so much better than 30? On a structure that does not stick out of the ground and cause, blockage of views and whatnot. Do we really need 40 is what I'm saying?
What our front setback is it 30 feet? Is that what it is for homes?
For main buildings, yes.
And 40 feet for detached garage, which I also think should change. But we're not talking about that. But a pool doesn't stick up out of the ground. It's not blocking anyone's view. It's gonna have a fence all the way around it already.
It has to be at least
Why are we
30 feet back.
Okay, 30 feet. Why is it 40 is what I'm saying.
It's hard to say on the 40. I mean, that's been in the ordinance for a long, long time.
For accessory buildings.
It was proposed at one time to
Right.
reduce that, and it didn't happen with that current council, but the only thing I can really think, and this is just what I think the reason is just to offset it from the main building. I don't know. I wasn't around when that was put in place. It was there, so I don't know what they were thinking.
Mayor, could I suggest that we readdress that? I'm willing to address that in another meeting where this is a wording verbiage thing on things. It doesn't address the setback. It's not set to do the setbacks per se, not changing any setbacks, I guess is what I'm saying. This ordinance is not changing any setbacks. It's simply changing the verbiage of what
Definition.
or definition of what an accessory structure is a little bit. That we move that discussion to another time, address that another time, which I would be willing to do.
And then you can bring it up in another, we have a full agenda
This-
today. Do you want
This one is actually, I think, giving a little more, because an accessory, I think, is a 15-foot setback on the side, and this is a 10
No, accessory buildings are 10 on the side
15.
Yeah.
in the rear,
15
but
in
this
the
is a
rear.
10 in the rear
for swimming pools.
for a swimming pool.
Yeah,
So it's a little more lenient for a swimming pool
it's more, it would be,
with this new definition.
well, so right now, a swimming pool, you could follow our exception criteria and try and get it closer to the property line.
But what gets awkward with that is our exception criteria talks about, fire rated walls and no openings against the property line, things like that, that really are not applicable to a swimming pool. And that's one reason we propose to kind of separate the setbacks out in the zone for swimming pools. The other example is a corner lot. For a home, it's a 30-foot setback on both sides is the minimum. If a pool, based on the way the ordinance reads right now, the literal just interpretation of that is that it would have to be 40 feet off the property line. Even if it's in the backyard, it's fenced in with a 6-foot solid fence that nobody can see it. It would have to be 40 feet off the property line
But
with no visual obstruction to anyone.
But I think, and I think one of the reasons for this ordinance clarification is that some people are going right to the property line just about right and saying that it's not an accessory structure. It doesn't have any. Have we seen some of that?
Well, we've had some appeals on some things and our hearing officer has agreed with us
Okay.
looking at things. There's enough in our definitions to say, like a rock structure that they put around pools or a slide or something like that is a accessory. It's listed as a building right now with an accessory structure. We're just trying to clarify that.
Yeah, I mean, right, this is good to clarify so we don't have to have appeals and there's uncertainty.
Yeah, and for the most part, what we're doing tonight is really what we do in practice. And so we just want it to read the way that we interpret it. So it says something, but we interpret those words in a certain way. And so we're just trying to make that, when you read it, when anyone can understand the way that we currently interpret our ordinance.
So Mayor, I'll make a motion that we approve ordinance.
So.
If you're gonna speak, you should come up to the microphone, but it's not. I don't think it's on a- it's your discretion.
So it's my understanding that it's 5 feet. The pool can be 5 feet from the property line. But you're saying you want to change it tonight to 10, is that correct?
Yes,
No.
It's always been 10.
yeah.
I think it's always.
Well,
We haven't had a definition of it, really.
right.
Because my pool's in the ground right now. Our pool guy didn't get an approval, as you know,
He
because you
didn't
got tagged it. So, and it's, we thought we had plenty of room, but as your surveyor came out again, and he said that it was 10 feet different than what our surveyor said, landscape and forest or whatever, so. The surveyors were different, the surveys were different, is that how you say it? But, so we've got a problem, we've got a pool in the ground in our backyard, but we don't have a permit for it. So we were looking for you for advice for that, Shane. You've told us what to do, so we've gone through all those steps.
Mhm.
But the problem is if you make a rule tonight that it's 10 feet and ours is 16 inches less than the 5 feet that we were told, so I'm not sure how
Yeah,
all
so,
of a sudden you guys are gonna change it to 10 feet when we already have a pool in the ground that we need a permit for.
yeah, so whenever we,
Because our
whenever
pool
we
guy
make an
didn't get
ordinance
that.
change, it takes place today, but it would apply to any future application that comes in. So if you've already applied, which I've seen your application myself, so I know that you have, you're basically locked in under the old
Okay,
ordinance.
okay. So that's not something that would,
So this would not
Require
affect
pulling-
you and your personal situation, in your current situation.
okay, so. that
But if you
was-
decide to build another pool, you know, in the future, it will now fall under this the new setback standards.
Okay.
And I highly recommend permit first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you'll get
Who
the
knew?
Okay,
Yeah, thank you.
so
So that answers my question. Thank you.
Greg, did you?
Yeah, for the mic.
Okay, you gotta come up to the mic because
Yeah,
we're
come to the
Come
recording
to the
this.
microphone.
And
The
state-
So we
protocol-
broadcast these online and.
State your
we
name and
record-
Protocol
We
is
need to
state
name
your
and address.
name and
Yeah,
address.
sorry
Yeah,
about
my
that.
name is Tyler DeHart. I'm at 267 Allegheny Court. But I'm just, so you said the homes are 30-foot setbacks.
Yes.
So this thing we talked about earlier is gonna make my home 18-foot setback off of 5 lane road.
Yeah.
But you guys will change your ordinance to make it okay?
No, I mean, that would be something that would be, it wasn't your choice. And so it's just like if a city comes in and says, hey, we're gonna condemn property, and all of a sudden your lot goes from a half acre to 30,000 square feet, you wouldn't be penalized for that because it was something the city kind of said, hey, this is what we're doing. We're not gonna penalize you. If that makes sense. So that would be the situation there.
Shane, can I jump in
Yeah.
if I may? That you would become legal non-conforming, but it's legal. We're not going to come by and say, oh, by the way, move your house back 12 feet or whatever.
But if someone else came in and said,
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean,
Yeah.
He feels like you can change whatever you need for what the city needs, but he can't change what he needs. He wants to put a barn up, but he can't put a barn up within 40 feet of the back fence line, right? So,
We like this idea of 30, we'll take that 10.
like, so his situation, it's a big deal. It's all a big lot.
I'd put the barn up.
You can change what you need for the city and for 99.9% of people.
Okay,
He can't change anything for what he needs.
So,
I just want to add,
to
you know,
clarify-
Alpine does work with its citizens quite frequently, and we do listen to exceptions and look at everyone's unique situations. I do think that's one of our strengths is that we take into consideration the 99 and the 1 at the same time. So it doesn't always fall the way maybe the resident wants, but we do spend a lot of time. And I've been in other communities where they don't even have a pathway for the conversation. So,
Well, I guess that's all we're seeking is some information so that we know what's going on. We didn't know about any of this until tonight. If you're changing resolutions and doing things to make it happen. And
we didn't know. I guess that's our fault for not going to the public boards and checking each week what's gonna be up for talk and all that.
I mean, honestly, do I have to go to the website to find out I'm taking 20 feet in my yard, or just show up the back or just sit down like that?
You can go ahead and sign up to get an email every time I put a public notice up on the state website.
Yeah, you guys will notify people that are directly involved by mail. That's probably smart on this.
So you'll just need to petition at least 2 of the city council members and ask them to go ahead and change that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 2022-03 as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Greg Gordon, second by Lambert, to approve ordinance 2022-03 regarding accessory structures and swimming pools. We'll do a roll call vote.
Can we have discussion? Because I have
Oh,
something.
okay, Shirley.
Okay,
I thought we had discussion.
Austin, can we look at, I don't know how you want to what page in the packet? It's page 396, but it's page 3 in the,
I'll just go to, 396. I can pull that up.
if you go down to swimming pools. I want to read through this real quick to make sure I understand. I know we had a lot of, in every zone, you change the same words. On B, item 2, side setback, this is still referring to a pool, correct?
Correct.
So it says side setback, corner lot side, abutting street, accessory buildings. Shouldn't
Oh.
that read structure?
I should not say accessory building.
So
that's
that occurs in both
4
page
times.
396, 399, 402, and 404, and 406
okay.
in every zone. So part of that motion then, Greg, would need to change that word on B to say from buildings to structure in every zone. And it's basically the same in every zone.
Yeah, because we caught it in item A, but by item B, it's still showing up.
Agreed with that edit.
My
Anything
only
else, Lauren?
comment is, again, I don't think we should do 40 anymore. So I'm gonna vote against it, but I think we should bring it back to the table for this and also accessory buildings. I just think we need, if we really are concerned about watering and landscaping and that, we shouldn't prevent someone from putting a barn or a thing. So I'm gonna vote no.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. You agreed to
Yes.
amend the verbiage. Any other discussions?
And did you get that, Bonnie? That's edits.
Okay, with that, we'll go with a roll call vote, starting with Councilman Mott.
Aye.
Jessica Smuin, aye.
Kelly Law, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, no.
Okay, motion passes. Okay, next ordinance. Ordinance 2022-05. Austin?
Okay, so this is an ordinance change to bring us into compliance with the state code. So last year, the legislature adopted a bill that made it so that accessory dwelling units, which is basically an internal apartment inside a home, they made it so that those are allowed in any home in the state. And so Alpine City already had an ordinance that was kind of that allowed that. But there were a few things that we still need to change to be in compliance with that. So besides the fact that you can have it inside a home, you're not allowed to limit the square footage percentage that it can be of a home, or you can't limit where it can be located in the home. So right now, our ordinance says that you can have it in a basement or an above in a garage. And so it limits it to those places specifically. The new state code says you can put it anywhere in your house.
Right, but you're still limited to just one though, correct?
One per, yeah, one
But now-
per
now homeowners
owner
can
Still
occupied
owner-
basement.
dwelling
Owner
unit.
Rent their whole
occupied.
house out.
Owner occupied. And one thing that the state does allow that we don't, we haven't done is, I think it's only required in, you can restrict it to certain zones of the city. And we've always
Allowed it.
allowed it
Right.
Well, that was to be,
everywhere,
that was to become compliant with SB 34, right?
maybe so.
It's, yeah, that's the Affordable Housing Act.
But we allowed accessory apartments in all zones even before SB 34. So,
Right, we did it before that bill was even came into existence,
So we're
so,
totally in compliant.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we thought we were totally in compliance, but it looks like there were a few sections that still need to be tweaked.
Yeah, it was, if you look at Draper's map, I mean, they have like 30 batches. It's very controlled.
I'll make a motion.
Interestingly.
Make a
Jason?
motion to approve ordinance 2022-5 as proposed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jason Thielen, second by Jessica Snewen. Any discussion? If there's no discussion, let's go on to a roll call vote, starting from Councilman Thielen.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Kelly Law, yes.
Jessica Smewen, yes.
Lon Lot, yes.
Okay, ordinance passes. We'll go on to item K, which is ordinance 2022-07 on the creation of advisory boards. Craig, is this you?
I guess I'll be more than happy to discuss this. Some months ago, we were asked to come up with some conceptual ideas of how to create and structure citizen advisory boards. You know, it could be A, B, C, or D. And the structure that we're suggesting that you consider for adoption tonight is to have one section that sets up the membership of the boards, how they're appointed, the terms, and that sort of thing. And then by a separate section or a separate ordinance, you could establish ABC committee, then DEF committee, and FGH committee that have different responsibilities, different scope of issues, and that sort of thing. And so what we're proposing tonight is we create the structure, okay? The composition, terms, and how they're appointed. And then as the council populates the concepts of different committees, then we can come back and define what the mission, the scope of those individual committees would be in a different manner, in a different ordinance, in a different section of the code. And so that's what's proposed tonight in ordinance 2207. It is not to organize the committees with specific tasks and responsibilities, but is to set forth the structure.
Anybody have questions for Craig?
And what other cities have this kind of a structure?
Oh, Midvale, Holiday, Murray, Riverton, I think South Jordan. Those are the ones that frankly I'm intimately acquainted with that I've worked on in years past.
Do they have anything that clarifies? I don't know what the right word is, credentials or I mean, does it have to be a citizen of the United States?
Well, this ordinance that's in the structure has got to be a citizen of Alpine.
Of Alpine, but
Yes,
but that's a pretty open
yes,
thing as well.
yeah.
Um,
Nothing more than that, because it's subject to the nomination or selection by the mayor and with
Consent.
advice and consent of the council. Now, if you want to set up a recreation committee, for the lack, I'm just guessing where you may want to go on this thing, a recreation board or a trail board, formalize the trail committee or whatever if you wanted to. You certainly would want people interested and have some experience in that area. And the same thing with arts and heritage or cemetery or whatever direction you want to go. This gives you the flexibility to do so.
And I noticed it's residents of versus citizens. of
Does it say residents?
Yeah. Citizen committees, but residents of.
Yeah,
One thing I noticed, Mayor, is in our code, we already have an arts committee. I was interested to notice, as well as a library committee.
you got a civil service commission too, I found out tonight.
We're all disbanded.
It's still disbanded, but I think the code, it's
It's still there.
still there with all the. parameters.
Yeah, Greg, I would suggest that if you go back and establish these committees with a renewed vision and mission, we omit them, delete those from the code and start over,
Just
to be honest with you.
house
And I
cleaning.
apologize, I should have known that. I didn't know they were there. In all of our discussions, that's never came up.
There's a lot of update needs to happen in that code. But these committees could be, after this establishes kind of the framework. They could be, the committee could be established by resolution, right? And then it wouldn't go into the code, kind of like we did that with our trails committee.
We probably could do that, yeah.
And
As long as they follow this format, yeah.
Yeah.
Because some of these committees, I can see them kind of, they might have a specific purpose and they might come and go. And I don't know if it makes sense in that case to have that in your city municipal.
No, I think you're right, yeah.
Mhm.
So,
On rules and procedure meetings, and it says that the committees will come up with their own rules and procedures. Is there any oversight process to that, or that's just,
I think we'd watch those very carefully, to be honest
so
with you.
should we say something like, and will be brought back to council for review and approval, or any kind of language that then makes sure that we're put back in the loop on that?
Well, there's only,
We had that discussion on the Trails Committee.
yeah,
and-
Yeah.
And we modified it somewhat. I can't remember.
Well, and why does it say for discussion only at the top? Is that, are we passing?
That's
this
it.
or
Greg, that was just the comments that, when I drafted it, had a December date, then we modified it in the last couple of weeks. That's all. It was just purposes of keeping track which version we were looking at. You can adopt it tonight if you want.
So I feel
see.
like the oversight would be, the way I envisioned it was that each city council person would be the liaison to that committee, or, at least one city council person would be. And that would be the oversight. But do you feel like we need more than that?
Well, should we make sure that that's what this says? That we,
I think looking at the trail committee as well as those committees that are already, from past decades, perhaps, they had some good language in there. That might be a good template to mimic potentially.
So do you feel like that's more comprehensive than what we have now?
Well,
or are you talking about-
that did look more comprehensive in a way. Now, this might be better.
So the way that we're looking at it is we just have a generic template, and then as we see a need in the community, we populate it, as opposed to coming up with a new thing every single time.
Right, and this looks pretty flexible, and maybe that's what the format we want to use.
And I think part of it too is, saving on legal fees, right, Craig? That we could work off of this and be able to populate it. It would be quicker, more feasible.
Well,
as
that
far
was
as
the
for legal
idea.
end.
and could council be interchangeable? I was looking through some of the archives today, and it looked like we had an arts council at one time. Would that need to be called out in this, that it could be a committee, a board, or a council, and those are all interchangeable labels? Is that relevant?
Well, we need to clean it up to make sure that it's accurate when we go look at the code and follow what's there. If we need to revise it, we can revise it. If we need to delete it and reestablish it, let's do that. But it ought to be, we have the opportunity now, if you adopt this tonight, to do it right, so to speak. And if it's been decades since we had ABC, library board, let's fix it. Here's our opportunity. Greg brought it to our attention, and I think that's great.
Craig, does 4.0 say that it says provided that there shall be at least one meeting each month. Is that saying they have to meet
Yes,
once a month?
and I did that intentionally. Because depending on the board, you know, if it's an ad hoc board, for example, Shane, what were you talking about an ad hoc board the other day? I've gone blank on it.
Fiber.
Yeah, that would be one that would
Yeah,
be, yeah.
you know, establish it, come, go, abandon, you know, if it's an ad hoc board. But if it's, let's say cemetery, you know, you have vision for the future for the cemetery. And right now it's a big deal. It's going to become a bigger deal. And if we create a cemetery board, they ought to be meeting at least once a month. You know, so that was the purpose, frankly, to make them meet and do their business and go on. For example, the one I was thinking about is Lambert Park and the conservation easement. That's established by executive order. It's going to meet, I think, on Thursday. I think the date, Thursday night. And that's going to come and go, you know. And once they decide what the vision is, and then it's going to disappear, you know, and that's what the intent of the executive order was. So, you know, if you got some angst, you got some ideas of how to make this better, read better.
Like what constitutes a quorum then at that meeting?
3,
3?
yeah, it's 5.
And so I wonder, you know, if that point is a little too strict. I mean, so in the month of December, the cemetery board is going to have to meet, right? Or with some of these, is there a possibility you may want 7 members or, you know, 8 on an arts council or something? Some of these, they kind of make them big, right? Like Salt Lake's Arts Council has
So can you say
15 or
each
something.
committee shall be composed of at least 5
Yeah.
members?
Yeah, I
Or a
think that's a good
minimum of
idea.
5.
And then that would easily
Yeah.
rectify number 2, and then
Could you say at least annually 11 times or 10
10
times?
times maybe?
Quarterly be okay.
No,
Really? And never an instant with any committee would quarterly ever work?
I'm just trying to think.
I mean, I understand what Craig's saying. You're saying if they're only meeting quarterly, they're probably not doing much and the mayor should just disband the committee.
Yeah,
Only have the committee in place when you need
If they're
it.
gonna be doing something,
Yeah.
there's gotta be a purpose.
I
If
get
they're
it.
only gonna meet quarterly, can you give me an example of what you think?
I don't know. I can hardly meet at city council.
That's
monthly.
twice a month. City council's twice a month.
All right.
we could,
Yeah, but
Mayor, we could do something like meet at least 10 times a year or something, you know.
I'm amenable to that.
You know, there's different ways to kill this thing. And
Jason, would you be okay with at least 10 times?
Again, I think quarterly is fine, but whatever. I don't know why we're putting also 2 consecutive full-term limitations on it. If someone's really good, why? I don't know why we're trying to limit it so much, but this person's rocking. Well, sorry, you can't do it a 3rd term. 6 years. is
Yeah,
your
I don't
limit.
know. Do
What
we
is
need
our
to do it?
expectations is going to come from this committee?
There's people who might love being on the cemetery committee,
Community involvement.
and they could be on it for
Let them have
decades.
a voice and be able to, at least that was my vision, at least, was that I think Alpine residents want to be more involved. They want to be part of the process.
I want to contribute.
They want to contribute. And to empower this committee to be able to come to council with recommendations for how they see what will make the experience better for citizens of Alpine. Whether it's through arts and arts or parks, trails, whatever it may be.
I can see what the Trails Committee does. Would the staff, would this relieve some burdens from staff if there were research type things that they would be doing, or how would it help staff?
In some instances, it could. My guess is it'll make more work. I'm just being 100% honest.
Shane.
I've been here when we've had committees. We had a cemetery committee. Eventually it was disbanded. What else? We had a pro committee, park recreations and open space. That was disbanded. And then we kind of deformalized just to a trail committee, and then just last year formalized the trail committee. That one needed to happen because of decisions and just dealing with trails in subdivisions and different things.
What
That one
about library? Did you ever see that?
I did, yeah. Mhm.
When we were looking at getting a library
Right.
or doing a library.
Yeah.
What's the cost to post? What's our cost to post meetings?
In the newspaper?
Yeah, but we
So-
don't publish in the newspaper.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
So really no cost other than the labor of the employee. Okay.
But, so what would employee or staff engagement need to be?
I guess my one concern is if a staff member's not there and that ad hoc committee doesn't really know how things work in the city world.
Yeah, I
They-
think, but I don't
they
think
could get off
each
track.
committee needs a staff present. I mean, that's why we can, these committees, I don't know, do we have staff going to trails?
So
Yeah.
with trail committee, at least when I don't think we get minutes out of their meetings generally, right?
Actually, I
And-
think they do. I think Heather does it. Yeah. Heather
Oh, does she? Okay,
No.
but I don't, yeah, okay.
Mayor,
Anyway, I don't know if those have been strictly following all the procedures around minutes and agendas. And
I don't think we have to have written minutes. Do we have to have written or just recorded? So I think, is that right,
Maybe
Craig?
Minutes
Anyone
have to be
can-
in writing.
Yeah,
Yeah, for
They-
the committees?
yes.
The
Okay.
written minutes would be official.
They're the official,
So
yeah,
is
the
that-
audio recording doesn't count as an official record.
Okay, so, okay, you guys, we have
But
10
I-
minutes left for
I-
our 9 o'clock
I
deadline.
think I think the monthly meeting is a key one. I mean, I
Would
can
you be amenable
imagine.
to 10 meetings a year?
Yeah, maybe, but I wonder if that's just more than is needed for some. I'd feel comfortable with quarterly as an at least. If if it's a standing committee, maybe 6. Because if it's flexible for all purposes.
I'd like to make a motion to put K and L on the first agenda items of our next city council meeting and move on to,
I'll second that motion.
but they're the first items on the next one.
Okay, we
Jessica,
have a motion and a second to table K and L.
We only have 7 minutes left.
I just had how do you feel about that, Jessica? Are
I
you
can
set on?
do this in 2 minutes.
If it helps you, I don't have a lot of items there.
You have a motion on the table.
So we have a motion on the table. If there's no discussion, let's vote. All in favor of postponing the last 2 items on the agenda to the next meeting,
Aye.
please vote.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right,
Okay.
let's go.
Motion fails.
Let's go.
Okay, come on, let's do this.
I'll make a motion on
Okay.
this one. I move to approve ordinance 2022-07, establishing advisory boards, including rules and guidelines for governance of the boards, with the changes that the committees meet at least 6 times a year instead of at least monthly, to point to the last section, and that each committee shall be composed of at least 5 members instead of 5 members.
Okay, we've got a motion by Greg Gordon. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jessica Smewen. Oh,
With-
this isn't work. Okay, so any discussion?
Greg, would you be willing to take off limiting them to 2 consecutive full terms?
Yes.
Okay.
So, sorry, what was that?
Would you be willing to remove limiting them to 2 consecutive full terms?
So not to have term limit.
Yeah. no,
Yeah,
You would? Okay.
yeah. And also, I amend my motion per Councilman Law's suggestion that they be at least, that they meet at least bi-monthly versus 6 times.
It's like every other month.
Okay. Okay, motion and a second.
Bi-monthly.
Second, and then we'll do a roll call vote.
Mayor, one quick thing.
Yes,
You
sir.
want us to clean this up to be consistent, either advisory boards or citizens committees through the document.
Yeah, let's do citizen committees.
Citizen committees.
Okay, Lon Lot,
Aye.
Aye.
you gotta say your name.
Jessica Smewen, aye.
Kelly Law, yes.
Greg Gordon, yes.
Jason Thielen, yes.
Okay. Item L,
Okay.
you got 2 minutes.
Okay, so since in 2021, the city staff started reviewing options to update the city website. We have now come to the end of that due diligence process, and we would like to move forward with Civic Plus. As you can see, if you look at the second page on the quote, it actually, they've continued to reduce it, and we're now at, for the first year, total investment, we're at the cost of 19,000. About 20,000, which actually, when you look at the other website we were considering, which was Revise, when you consider a full year's cost and migration, we're only about $5,000 apart. And after speaking to staff members that have had to use the administrative side and then going through a process of the end user side, there's a value of that $5,000 price difference that we feel like that brings, would be brought to the website. It's also a cost roughly of about $800 a month. I'm sorry, $800 annually to host it, which again, we see the value proposition in that number and that cost difference. We have Square Hook right now, and it says it's $99, but Square Hook isn't even really, I don't even know how. Jason, can you explain that? Square Hook really isn't even.
It's just a WordPress system that you kind of need to know programming and stuff to be able to modify it well.
So saying it's $99, I guess, isn't a true comparison to what is going to be brought to the table and what we're going to be able to do. It's going to do everything that everybody asked for.
In my mind, this is super inexpensive.
So,
Yes.
yeah, I agree. So do I have a motion to approve this proposal for Civic Plus?
I move that the city approve the Civic Plus website redesign as proposed.
I'll second it.
Okay, we've got a motion by Kelly Law, second by Jason Thielen. Any discussion?
What cost would we save then by not having something else we're using now?
I think what we're using now is like
Doesn't
using a
work.
well that doesn't work.
But what would we save? What cost? What goes away?
Oh,
Oh, it's increased functionality is probably what it is.
Yeah,
To the
so
point of,
we'll,
can we send out
Are we
notices?
paying anything right now?
oh,
for
you're saying
website?
we
What
lose
goes-
$99.
$99 per
So
month.
now the delta's just
Okay,
is even less.
okay. Well, I have no idea on cost. You say it's a good thing. It sounds like a lot to me, but
Yeah.
for migration, I think it's. a
I
pretty-
think it's over 4 years, it's less than 10K per year.
And then the
a
fourth
lot of
year, we
cost.
get a complete redesign. So that's built into the cost too, which at the rate everything's changing, we'll be ready for a redesign.
Okay, are we ready for a vote? Is this roll call also, or is this just?
money.
No,
Yes,
just a voice
okay.
vote's fine.
Oh, well, so the question would be though, if we're making this change, it's not in the budget. Do we need to make a budget adjustment then?
Well, it was in the budget last year. It was already appropriated.
There's not a line, we have some line items in different areas for, it's a term, technology updates or something like that. It can fall in there if we need to make. an
It's
adjustment
enough,
at the end of the year.
enough in that, then. Okay.
Okay, so then can we just, we don't need a roll call vote. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Any opposed? Okay, looks like we're moving forward.
okay, thank
Yay,
you.
hopefully we'll get a usable website that our citizens.
Okay,
can
Mayor,
use.
I'd like to make a motion that we extend the meeting for 10, to 9:10.
I'll
Okay.
second.
We got a motion and a second to extend the meeting to 9:10. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay,
Okay, let's get her done.
okay, let's staff reports. Chiefs?
I have nothing.
I'm good also.
Shane?
I'm good, but I have a couple things.
Okay.
Okay. Somebody asked, I can't remember who it was, a meeting or two ago, about what was left on our pressure irrigation bond. There's 2.87 million left in principal. And over the term of that bond, there's about 155,000 in addition to that in interest. Final payment would be in 2029. So that's that. We're meeting, the mayor and I and Highlands mayor and the chiefs are meeting Thursday to discuss public safety budget information. And then Jessica and Jason next week, I think Tuesday or Monday afternoon. If any of the other three council members want to have that meeting, we can work to schedule one. We could take up to 2 council members at the same time. So if you want to do that, let me know and we'll work with the group to get a date that works for everyone. I know Chief William didn't have anything, but I don't think this whole group has heard about the donation you got for new guns. Maybe might be good to just mention that to them.
So the police department, at the end of last year, first of this year, received just over $9,000 in donation to purchase new firearms. We had a group of residents that approached us and asked us what we needed. They wanted to purchase something for us. They wanted to purchase us new vests. And most of our vests are fairly new. We do get those on a grant from the federal government, so we save quite a bit of money on those as we need to replace those as time goes on. But one thing that we look forward to in the budget is the next budget year, 23-24, we would need to purchase new firearms. So we bumped that up a year and they covered the cost of the firearms, which is about half. The $9,000 covered about half of what we would need to do that. We were able to find the additional $8,000-9,000 in the budget to be able to cover the cost of replacing holsters and optics and things that go on those. So it was a nice donation, and all they wanted to do was have a picture of them when they were done and completed. So we are just receiving the last of the holsters now. The officers spent last week putting everything together. We have to go out and qualify on them as soon as everything's put together, but we're just about there. So we appreciate their kindness and generosity.
But I really brought that up because of the previous discussion with the 501(c) that's being created. You know, it could be an opportunity. There's a lot of people, I think, that probably could make donations for different things like that, whether it be police, fire, other things. That could be a good thing once it's set up. So I think that's all I have.
Okay, Lon?
I'm good.
I just left everyone a copy of this. We have Chris Merritt from the State Historic Preservation Office come and take a look at the Lambert ruins, and he's supporting the grant application. So that's moving forward. He really feels like if we aren't proactive, it's really not sustainable with the number of visitors that we get. So excited about that, and hopefully we'll get that completed early next week. One other thing, as part of the new website, we want to just go through a branding process as a city. And I don't want to use the word rebrand, but maybe clean up our brand, because once we launch, we want everything to be consistent. And we have a citizen in Alpine who does this for a living, but it has offered their services and said that they will step us through. I think it's about an hour branding process that really helps. And so if anyone wants to be involved in that, just let me know and I'll set up a time. Again, I think it's about an hour and a half, and that'll give us some direction on what we want to do with our city logo and font and those kinds of things. That's it.
Two quick things. One, there's a cemetery grant of likely $10,000. I think it's from the same department that might be of interest, preservation basically and digitization. So thought that may be of interest this year to apply for. And then secondly, just, in line with Jessica's comments that the website, it's all about how you design it and the planning and so on. So I think we should keep in mind how we want it to be used and the value. All the work and the benefit is in the design work. So should keep that in mind from staff to council and so on.
Jason?
I'm just excited for the website. I think it's gonna be needed, so.
No, I think we all are. And then I think starting next month's newsletter, I believe Carolyn has an article that explains to citizens how they can enroll to be notified. So we can, as a city, send out push notifications. So I was gonna mention it to these guys that if they enroll, then hopefully, in the future, every week I'd like to send out messages that basically say, hey, this is what we're gonna discuss. If it affects you or you're interested, please come out. So it's more interactive, and the new system will also support that. So I just feel like, if we can improve communication with our citizens, that's always a good thing. That's it for me.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, seconded by Jason Thielen. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's a big
We didn't
agenda.
even need 10 minutes.
You got through it in 3 hours. That's great. The next one shouldn't be this big, so.
Everybody.
Hey, Kelly, were you able to attend the Trails Committee meeting? How'd it go?
What's probably
Yeah.
good
I said the exact
is
same
we
thing.
So what
saw it
happened?
file.
He was like, well,
And
I was
break some
hoping.
down just a little bit, but there's still some.
Because I thought of that. I've got a job.
He was like, I was.
Oh, and I meant to say that
That, that female. If I had a place to stop, I would like,
We don't have.
what
a
direction they want to go.
Oh, yeah. We've kind of worked ourselves out of dumping areas. Problem is too, you dump something both ways. We have one right now.
Because originally it was like a
That's gonna
27,000.
be changing. So
They made it like.
that's where we put our sod off. grade.
That difference was too big.
And then it sits there. And use it again somewhere else. Think about that.
but think about, I mean, if they're, again, I've sent you guys dirt for some of these trails at different times. Because this would be, rock free. And just some sod.
Oh, you're going into an
But it's-
infinity.